of the kids coming up, street skateboarders, who's like who's like blowing your mind?
Dylan Jabe.
Dylan
Jabe is kind of like. I mean, I'm just first that comes to my mind. What about you?
Give me an example. What's he doing? What's he done?
He flipped Wallenberg.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy.
I confess, I saw that clip early. It was sent to me
by Jim.
And there was an oath of silence on that one where I wasn't allowed to share it, but I was like, oh goodness, that thing is so big.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wild.
Yeah.
It made it clean.
Super clean.
Yeah.
He's just one people have been watching for a while through social media, and they're always like, oh, he's just a skate park skater. And I'm like, this kid's going to grow up to be something incredible, dude. It's like, and then he's doing his thing now in the streets.
All right. We are back, huh? We're back at the 9 Club, everybody. Today, we have a very special guest. Mr. Andrew Huberman is back with us. How are you, dude?
Great to see you guys. It's been a little while.
It's been a while, dude.
Been about a year, I think.
Year plus.
Year and some change.
Year and a half.
I think a little bit more than a year, but
yeah.
You guys all look great. You look like you're aging backwards, especially Jerron.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, especially Jerron.
I try.
Andrew, why what about me? I'm not. I feel like I'm aging quicker than ever, bro.
No, not quicker, not backwards. Just the same. Timeless.
Timeless?
Yeah.
Timeless.
I'll take that, dude. Not to take anything away from Dubs. Look, I mean, Dubs is beautiful, man. He's
I've been getting the others. People have been saying you look old.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Dude, if you shaved,
the comments they're relentless.
if you shaved, bro,
The comments are relentless,
Yeah,
but
as you know.
if you shaved your what is
I
that?
think
the
if I
goatee?
shave, I think I look older. I don't know
No,
why.
really?
Really?
Yeah. I think that's probably why I'm holding
shave
on to
your head.
this.
I mean, I'm graying in the beard.
I can't.
I don't. For some reason, I don't gray on the head.
I'm
but
tapping in both.
You are
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how to avoid that. Is there a way to avoid that?
I mean, stress. Stress
get
is
right
part
into
of
it.
I mean, there's really cool biology around graying. It's actually a peroxide molecule that's generated in the hair follicle.
Okay.
And that can be exacerbated by stress. There's a really nice paper published in Nature showing what they do is they take mice, they stress them, and then they relax them again for a period of time. And you can see the gray segment that correlates with the time of stress. So some graying of hair is stress related.
I went through that probably like 4 years ago where I was definitely stressing, I think, a little bit more than usual. So that's
And some of
probably
it's
when
just
a lot of
age
it came.
related.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's
Some
no
of
way
it's
to
just age
reverse it. It's like, oh, I got some gray hair coming. If I did this exercise or thought this way, it would go away.
Is there like a breathing exercise
Yeah.
we could do?
The physiological
lotion.
side. Double inhale through the nose, long exhale through the mouth. You can see the YouTube clips. Yeah, stress management's key.
Yeah.
Some graying is just age related, and some stress is good. It keeps you sharp. And it really does. It sharpens your memory, sharpens your focus. As long as you can sleep at night, some degree of stress is probably okay. Age related changes in hair follicles is common, right? As men in particular get older, they're going to convert more testosterone to something called dihydrotestosterone through an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase that's going to miniaturize the hair follicle and lose some hair. And the distribution of they're called androgen receptors on the head will dictate whether or not they lose hair in like the widow's peak pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Or the sort of crown back here pattern or all over. I was going to, call out somebody in skateboarding who's completely bald in skateboarding.
There's quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Mark Johnson?
The Mark Johnson
Omar
pattern.
Hassan.
Omar Hassan. But he's got the zipper unzipped
Yeah, he
too.
did. Yeah, he
You're
did.
right.
He hit his head on the thing.
Gnarly.
So what can somebody do about the balding? Is there? let's just get this going.
In some cases, it's really extreme, and there's nothing that can be done.
Okay.
And I did an episode about hair growth and regrowth. There are certain things. It turns out those like red light devices may help to some extent. There are things that people can take, like finasteride, dutasteride, like these kinds of things. Keep in mind, those disrupt certain elements of the hormone pathways I was referring to. And depending on whether or not they're topical, so like shampoos and ointments, or people are taking a pill, they can cause other issues. So dihydrotestosterone is one of the more powerful androgens in humans, relates to vigor, libido. There is something called post-finasteride syndrome, which physicians debate about. Actually, this is a pretty important conversation. it used to be that the only people taking this drug were men that were, 45 and older. And they were taking it to reduce the size of the prostate, which tends to grow with age. One of the issues with this drug is that it can cause severe sexual dysfunction. Not in everybody, but it can, which is why they develop topical versions of it, which may or may not induce the same effect. Now, what happened as the internet and YouTube and podcasts proliferated was that younger guys who were losing their hair early because they convert a lot of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone started taking finasteride. They want to hold on to their hair. They don't want to be the guy in their 20s and 30s who's bald. But some of them started having severe sexual side effects. And some of them came off these drugs and those side effects persisted. The urology community has been puzzled by this because there's no real clinical trial or data that they can point to that says that this is a real thing, this post-finasteride syndrome. But there are many thousands, if not more, young guys who are saying, hey, this is a real thing. And so when I hosted Michael Eisenberg, who is a very prominent figure in the male urology, sexual health, and hormone health for men world, he's at Stanford, on the podcast, he said, yeah, you hear about this. And, while there isn't a specific study that we can point to, it really should give all men, but in particular young men, pause about taking a drug specifically to try and reduce their hair loss, or even a topical formula to reduce their hair loss, because it may be that they will be dealing with sexual side effects, erectile dysfunction, et cetera. And there are things that they could do to deal with that. They
take a Blue Chew.
Well, they could explore the vasodilators, right? That kind of thing. But, for some of these people, it's quite troubling, and it extends or doesn't extend to the realm of not just blood flow, right? But neural and hormonal issues. And so, before somebody starts taking any drug, any compound that's going to alter neuromodulators like dopamine or serotonin, right? Things like antidepressants have their place. Mm-hmm. But before one does that, or before one starts taking any drug that would alter testosterone conversion to dihydrotestosterone or anything in those pathways, I'm going to seriously consider okay, what's the best case outcome and what's the worst case outcome as it relates to benefits and side effects. And so this post-finasteride syndrome is if I say it's a real thing, I'll get attacked by the medical community. But people within the medical community, like Eisenberg, will say it's a real thing in the sense that patients talk about it. And so in some cases, you might just be better off shaving your head and wearing a hat, being bald. I think most people would say, okay, either have hair or don't have hair, but have sexual function. Most people would choose to maintain their sexual function. Yeah.
True. I think too, but it's also a lot of, especially in LA, it's a lot of appearance based too.
Right. I mean, having a bald head, looks dope.
Should we?
Yeah, I would do it
right now.
I would do it. When I did the hair episode, my hair grows ridiculously fast. It's kind of annoying. I have to get my hair cut a lot. So and that just reflects the fact that I probably don't have many androgen receptors on my scalp. Now, beard growth is actually caused by the exact same thing. So what causes balding on the head actually causes beard growth. That's why, especially in some cultures, but you'll see people who are bald who have really thick beards, because it's depending on the way these hormones and the receptors interact, you either get hair growth or hair loss. So if you're a young guy and you're losing your hair, you might be better off avoiding these drugs for hair preservation and restoration. People will do all sorts of things, because you said people who are very conscious of wanting their hair, might just be willing to go to great lengths. Actually, when I put out that episode on hair, Jocko Willink, who's very bald.
Yeah.
And don't hurt me, Jocko. He's a friend. Love you, Jocko. He just, I think the top comment on that post was, he just said, shave head, move on.
Yeah.
He's very blunt and direct like that.
And I don't know for sure, but because I've never looked at his blood work, but based on Jocko's kind of build and persona and vigor, he's an incredibly vigorous guy with all the jiu-jitsu, and his sauna routine is insane. He actually took me through it. I think he was trying to kill me. It almost worked. I'm guessing he has very high levels of dihydrotestosterone. I'd be shocked if he didn't, especially since he's bald.
And these
right?
aren't over the counter. These are like prescription drugs.
Yeah. So when I talk about testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, I'm talking about what are called endogenous hormones. These are hormones that you make naturally in your body.
Okay.
You all make them. Women make them
Does
too.
it decrease when you get older?
So as you get older, testosterone can drop off, but the conversion to dihydrotestosterone often can increase. A lot of how much it converts and therefore how much balding you see or how much beard growth you see is genetically dependent on the amount of this enzyme, 5-alpha reductase. But, sure, people can take testosterone or et cetera, but that's not what we're talking about. The drugs that we're talking about, finasteride, dutasteride, and there are other things, topical or pill form. Those are prescription drugs.
Okay, gotcha.
But there are other things people can do for their hair. There's hair loss due to, there's all sorts of, believe it or not, bacteria that live on the scalp that are good or bad. So there's a whole world of this stuff. I mean, I did a whole episode about it. And Derek from More Plates, More Dates, kind of silly name. Sorry, Derek. Kind of corny name to some, More Plates, More Dates, but he kept the name. It's a great channel for things like this. He's not a scientist, but he's very scientifically literate and very literate about what works and what doesn't work in the real world. And he's actually done a lot of important work on harm reduction for, in particular, young men who are considering taking testosterone, young men thinking about taking these drugs to keep their hair. And he's done a lot of harm reduction saying, hey, you need to be careful. These drugs can cause these issues, et cetera. So, I'm going to be full of puns today. I was about to say hats off to terrible. Hey, I'm a professor. I'm 49 years old. I can make these kind of jokes,
Skateboarder. Let's not forget that.
Okay.
The book
The point is that before you take any compound, prescription or otherwise, that powerfully modulates neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, or powerfully modulates hormones, you want to think carefully.
Here's the thing. So this episode also, we posed a question for our community on Instagram, Discord, community posts on YouTube. Hey, you got a question for Huberman. He's going to have him on the show. A lot of it for us skateboarders, we just want to skateboard as long as humanly possible as we get older. So a lot of the questions were kind of directed at wanting to skate for as long as we possibly can.
Yeah, there was one, that or why is this guy so boring? And for that guy, did you see my response? My response was, I'll make this one extra long just for you.
Extra long. Yeah. We're going to be Mike Vallely this episode for sure. But this just goes right into one of these questions too that I kind of had the same question. Is this Casey 83788 from our YouTube says, I would love to hear Andrew discuss the process for assessing one's supplement needs. Because I listen to your podcast, I listen to so many things, and there's always stuff being thrown at us, right? It's like, take this, there's this supplement, there's this. We could end up having as an old person, like a whole medicine cabinet full of supplements.
Yeah, how do you know what's right for you, right?
How do we navigate that? How do we, or do we just do the bare necessity? Like, what do we do?
Well, it depends a little bit on what you're willing to do, disposable income, and that
everything.
Sort of thing. But I think if we were to break this down, first of all, we should say the word supplement is a little bit confusing because there are food supplements. Like let's say you can't get a meal in, but you're hungry. You could have a protein bar, that's a supplement. Or you could have a scoop of whey protein, that's a supplement, right? It's a food supplement. Then there are vitamin and mineral supplements. Do you need them? Or are they just quote unquote expensive urine? We talk about that. And then there are supplements that are designed to help you get a specific effect, like sleep better, focus better, okay? So the word supplement is kind of a catch-all for a bunch of things, right? So I will say that most important is that you do the right things and you avoid the wrong things. Like behaviors first. So what are those? Well, I would say try and get enough quality sleep each night. And if you don't get quality sleep, do a 30-minute non-sleep deep rest protocol in the afternoon. You can look it up on YouTube. It's completely zero cost. It's like a nap, and you might fall asleep, but it's a way of replacing sleep that you lost. But get good at sleeping. Now, there are a bunch of corollaries to that. Like, if you drink, and I don't have a problem if you drink, I don't tell people what to do or not do, but if you drink alcohol, your sleep isn't going to be as high quality. So try and hydrate before sleep, try and not drink too much alcohol too often, or don't drink any alcohol, that kind of thing, because that will erode your sleep. When you don't sleep well, everything gets worse. Everything. Your hormone status, your recovery from injury, your propensity for catching a cold or flu, your tendency for injury, we know this, your mood, your well-being, like, and on and on. Now, is it okay to enjoy a drink every once in a while for social reasons or to relax? Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. You be you. It's a free world, mostly, depending on where you live, right? Do that, enjoy it, but just be conscious of what you're doing. You know, once you get past 2 drinks per week, there is evidence of some what's called gray matter thinning, which means some brain deterioration. But look, if you're also exercising a lot, you're getting sunlight in the morning, you're socially connected, you know, it can offset some of that. So get good sleep. That's the main one. So get good sleep most nights of your life.
Let me ask you something really quickly. As a skateboarder and wanting to perform at the maximum level, is there a certain many hours of sleep that we need?
Whatever allows you to feel good throughout the day. The definition of insomnia is excessive daytime sleepiness. So if you feel good during the day, you're probably getting enough sleep. And if you need to take a nap or do a non-sleep deep rest for 10 to 20 or 30 minutes, then do that. And just put NSDR, my last name, into YouTube. If you don't like my voice for any number of reasons, put NSDR and a terrific female voice. It's actually very, very, very pleasant. I listen to hers as Kelly Boys, Boys. She's also on the Waking Up app, but has a channel on YouTube. You can just listen to those. Just relax, listen to that. If you fall asleep, fine. If you don't, cool.
And naps are okay. I'm a napper. I could sleep 8 hours at night. Great sleep all the way through. No issues. But then during the day, and middle of the day, I need a little half-hour power nap.
Perfectly normal, healthy, and great. The only people who shouldn't nap are people who don't want to nap, or if it's impeding your nighttime sleep. If you nap longer than an hour, it can have what's called sleep inertia, and it can make you groggy, and then the tendency is to drink a lot of caffeine to wake up again, and then you're 2 a.m. and you're not sleeping well. So, you know, and this is getting down to details, but you know, a nap is great. And if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling great, and then kind of mid-morning you're feeling tired, take a short nap. It's absolutely fine. So get your sleep right as much as you can. And if you have kids or demands or work things, you got to do things in life, and you're not going to sleep as much as you need to. Fine, like that's life. But get your sleep. This is key for longevity, key for recovery, because skateboarding can be hard on the body. And as you get older, you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep. The other thing is when it comes to nutrition, it's very straightforward. Doesn't matter if you're a vegan, a vegetarian, an omnivore, of which I happen to be, or a carnivore where you're just eating meat, right? Like some of these lion diet carnivore folks do. Try to get, if you're interested in your health, immediate and long-term health, 75 to 100%, but probably more like 75 to 80% of your food should come from non-processed or minimally processed sources. So your oatmeal, rice, beans, vegetables, fruit, meat, fish, eggs, cheese, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
At whatever amount is going to allow you to be the weight that you want to be. Okay, and we can talk about some skateboarders that I've helped lose a lot of fat, right? Some guys that were really heavy that wanted to lose weight. They did it without any supplementation. They did it all with changes to diet. We can talk about that.
Who are these guys?
Mike Blayback and Jake Rosenberg.
There we go.
Mike lost 60 pounds.
Jake's looking fantastic these days.
I like these.
No. We don't like. Don't mind the naps.
I'm going to do the Obama thing. Didn't Obama catch a fly with chopsticks?
Well, it's funny because even one of our community posts, John Fodo, says he lost 32 pounds last time Huberman was on with his weight loss advice, and he's kept it off.
Yeah, it's a straightforward program I've given to a lot of guys that are heavy, and it works. And we can talk about why it works. And they've kept the weight off. We talk about it. There are a bunch of musicians that are doing this. I've helped a lot of people lose weight. I've never had a weight issue, but I'm pretty solid on the health and fitness thing. You know, I mean, I'm not a physical therapist, but I'll go toe to toe with most any of them, honestly, because most of them, they train, but I'm kind of like, okay, listen, it's an interesting community where there's a lot of divergent opinion, but I've been working out since I was 16, because basically when I got hurt in skateboarding, I need to look to something. So I very covertly started talking to people that like lifted weights and ran and did physical therapy, because back then that was considered like sin of all sins. You like weren't allowed to do that, but I did it, and I'm glad I did it. So we could talk about this, but with nutrition, like if you're like you, Chris, John, like you're Kelly, like you don't, if you don't want to lose weight or don't need to lose weight, you should eat enough to feel satiated, and try and just get your food from good quality food. Does that mean you can't have a slice of pizza or ice cream every once in a while or a candy bar? No, it's just trying to get the vast majority of your food from those whole food sources. Why? Because these highly processed foods, like things that can last a long time on the shelf, in their ready to eat form. So like rice can last a long time on the shelf and it's ready, but it needs to prepare. Needs to be prepared. Excuse me. So highly processed foods are problematic, right? People talk about seed oils nowadays. Are seed oils bad? It's a huge debate, but basically the science says no, they're not bad, except they contain calories, and you need to keep those calories in check. I personally feel much, much better if I get my fats from either the proteins I eat. So I'll eat whole eggs, I'll eat some meat, not in excess. I like olive oil. I like butter, like Kerrygold butter. And I generally don't cook with or use things like canola oils or grapeseed oils or things like that. But I eat avocados. I'll have some Brazil nuts and things like that, walnuts. So just like good, healthy food. And it's amazing how much better you can feel in terms of vigor and focus and energy and recovery if you sleep well and eat well.
Right.
And then there's the exercise piece, which if this were any other podcast, I'd be talking about, you should try and get 200 minutes a week of zone 2 cardio. Well, if you're a skateboarder and you're pushing around a lot, you check that box and then some. And then, should you be doing resistance training, strength training? Well, not in a way that throws off your skateboarding, right? So should skateboarders be doing, heavy squats of 3 sets of 5 in the gym? I don't know, because I don't know how that impacts the body and for skateboarding. I mean, you look at a Jimmy Wilkins and, he's got ballerina-like grace skating as fast as like a GX 1000 guy, and if he starts doing heavy weights in the gym, I'm guessing it's going to throw off his whole style and aesthetic and ability and flexibility. That said, I think if there are skateboarders who feel like they are injury prone, doing some resistance training, like the ability to do sets of push-ups, pull-ups, some, burpees, jump squats, that kind of thing can be very useful. But skateboarding, depending on how you do it, can get you a lot of that. Right. So I don't want to tell skateboarders to go exercise in the gym if they're serious about skateboarding and they're doing a lot of that.
But you can get toned.
You can get,
so kind of the same.
Yeah. So toned isn't really a thing in that, like, there's no specific adaptation in muscle that we call toned. So you train with resistance, either body weight or with weights or machines to stimulate an adaptation. So let's just break it down. There are a lot of different methods to do this. But if you think about it, if I run really far 3 times a week, like 2 hours, right? What adaptation did I create? It's endurance, the ability to sustain work over time. If I sprint 100-meter dashes 3 times a week, what adaptation do I induce? Well, the ability to go faster over a short period of time and shorter distance. If you lift heavy weights, say in the 3 to 5 repetition range, weights that are heavy enough that I couldn't do 6 or 8 repetitions in good form, you'll get stronger and you'll get a little bit of hypertrophy of muscle growth. Not much, but you'll get stronger. If I train in the 6 to 12 repetition range and the final repetitions are to failure, you'll stimulate hypertrophy, growth of muscles. So there's no real adaptation that we call being toned. Toned to most people is the consequence of having muscles that have definition, and that largely comes from having low body fat. And so if you look at like a marathon runner, oftentimes they're very skinny fat. Whereas if you look at somebody who does a balance of resistance training and some cardiovascular training, and then of course genetics plays in too, if they eat right, then they'll tend to be kind of, what you call toned. So what I suggest is that people do some resistance training as needed for their particular life. So some skateboarders who are like older guys who are just pushing around every once in a while, doing a few slappies here and there, maybe like go to the mini ramp or the park or like whatever. Yeah, they should get into the gym or create a small gym or do some kettlebell swings and do some resistance training 3 times a week or 2 times a week minimum and make it hard, get stronger. But you don't have to get bigger. You can just use those low repetitions to get stronger. Right. This is very, very helpful as you get older, because a lot of what you lose as you get older is power, that explosiveness. Jumping, the ability to jump down and absorb the impact. That's one of the things that really disappears as people get older. So if you're a skateboarder and you're, jumping off stairs and occasionally kicking your board away and landing, you're already doing it. But most people, I think, after 40 are not doing that in the general population. So you got the exercise piece. And then, we could talk about stress management. So real-time stress management, 2 inhales through the nose to maximum lung capacity, long exhale through the mouth, aka the physiological sigh. I've talked about this ad nauseum on the internet. And then also ways to lower your chronic stress. A daily practice of 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes, even occasionally, has been shown to significantly improve focus, reduce stress, improve sleep. And there's so many positive benefits of this. This is no longer considered woo science. Now, notice we haven't talked about taking anything. If we want to talk about supplements, where is their role? Well, most people don't get enough quality protein. And most people would do well to ingest about 1 gram of quality protein per pound of body weight. You don't have to break it down too carefully. This is like 2 or 3 meals a day where you have some quality protein. 4 whole eggs, believe it or not. Some tuna. Don't eat too much tuna. Your mercury levels will go up. But that sort of thing. A chicken breast or whatever. And if you're a vegan or vegetarian, then you'll have to look into sources of good quality protein. But most people don't do that. So is it reasonable to think about, okay, what would be a good investment? Good quality whey protein that you could, a scoop or 2 of whey protein. That's going to be beneficial for a lot of people in getting that protein threshold up. Because when you take care of muscle as an organ, not just for muscular growth, you are preserving a tissue that is metabolically active, that's very important to offset aging. So even if you're not trying to grow muscle, getting enough quality protein is a good idea. So a little bit of whey protein. The other thing would be a quality fish oil. The least expensive way to do that would be to use liquid fish oil. So I don't have any relationship to any of those companies, but they have some that are flavored with lemon. So a tablespoon or so of that a day gets you enough of the omega-3 fatty acids that are great for skin, for brain. There's some antidepressant effects of these. You could take it in capsule form, but then it gets a bit more expensive. So you want to get 1 gram or more of EPA per day. So when you look at it and it says on the back, it says, 1 gram of fish oil, but only half of that is EPA, you would need to take 2 servings of that. So
what about, I'm sorry to interrupt, along that, myself, I have hip impingement and like my joints are, like, what would you take for joints with skateboarding? Okay,
so there's some evidence that collagen, which is, what makes up or is included in ligaments and tendon, also skin health. You have very nice skin, Kelly, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 39, about to be 40.
Do you wear sunscreen?
I started to. I had like a little acne in my face right here, but I wear sunscreen a lot now.
We talk about sunscreen, but let's make it really simple so that I don't do 25 podcasts in this one podcast. Even though the guy said I'm boring and I go too long, I'm gonna make sure that guy gets quality sleep. Yeah. Mineral-based sunscreens are safe. Zinc oxide, titanium oxide containing sunscreens, up to 25% concentration. Chemical-based sunscreens, the stuff that ends in beans, so oxybenzene, those ones are debated as safe or not safe. They can be absorbed transdermally, maybe hormone disruptors. In Europe, a lot of countries in Europe, they're not allowed or they're recommended against. So just play it safe, right? Like wear a zinc oxide or titanium dioxide containing sunscreen. Or if you're like scared of sunscreens for whatever reason, which I'm not, despite what the internet says, use a physical barrier. Wear a hat, wear a long sleeve shirt, but sometimes it's too warm to do that. So, but wearing some sunscreen, especially in the middle of the day, is a good idea. And if you're in an area like Australia or an area where the UV index is very high, just do that.
Yeah, I started putting it twice or every 2 hours when I'm outside. I put it on, but
the UV rays will mutate the epidermal top layers of the skin, can cause skin cancers. They're generally not the skin cancers that kill you, but you don't want them. And by the way, you want to avoid getting the skin cancers that kill you, the melanomas, and for that reason, you should be looking not just at your moles, but you should get your body checked once a year if you can. If you have access to a good dermatologist, and have someone look at your back. Like have your girlfriend look at your back and be like, oh, like this is a new thing. Send a picture to the doctor. A lot of this can be done remotely now. Those melanomas are no joke. So
you mentioned collagen for joints.
Collagen,
I take collagen every day.
Yeah, so collagen is not considered a very high quality protein for sake of muscle repair and recovery from exercise. And again, we're not just talking about muscle building. In fact, I think most skateboarders don't want to be really big, but they'd like to be strong. You'd like to have more pop, more power. Train after a brief warm-up.
Endurance.
Doing 2 to 3 heavy sets per exercise where you can only get 3 or 4 repetitions in good form. You're not going to be breathing hard. Rest 3 to 5 minutes and do another set. Rest 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 sets or so per exercise. 2 or 3 times per week. You're golden. You're golden. That's going to keep you strong. It's going to keep the nerve to muscle contractions really this isn't a physiological term, but functioning properly, and you're not going to get a lot of size, which is good because you want to be strong and explosive, but you don't want to be carrying a lot of extra weight. But collagen protein, it turns out, is very rich in certain amino acids that can repair collagen, so it actually can improve skin health and appearance, and can also be useful for tendon and ligament health. Now, some people will say take chondroitins and things like that, and that's debated. It's not clear they make that much of a difference. There are some peptides that sit kind of in the gray market zone, meaning they're not FDA approved, but they're not illegal either. And I'll tell you, a lot of athletes, including a lot of very top name skateboarders, take these for sake of repairing joints and injuries. And the main one that you hear a lot about nowadays is BPC 157, Body Protection Compound 157. It's available as a pill and an injection. In general, the injection form is more effective. People inject it locally, and you will hear anecdata, as I refer to it, anecdotes about remarkable recovery of knees, of shoulders. I'll just tell you, there were a number of people at recent major skateboard competitions that were in a lot of pain going into it that managed to do quite well there. I'm not trying to be cryptic, but I'm going to remain cryptic about this.
But isn't that just a Band-Aid?
Well, BPC 157 in animal studies, there's very little, if any, human data, but in animal studies has been shown to cause what's called fibroblast migration and proliferation and growth of new vasculature of blood vessels. And you can see remarkably fast repair of torn ligaments and tendons.
Okay.
I've tried it. I don't use it regularly, but I've tried it where I have a calf injury. The muscle was essentially having some trouble contracting because of the previous skateboard thing, and then something else that happened, not skateboarding. And some injections of BPC 157 into that calf brought everything back within a couple weeks.
Whoa.
And it remained, and then I stopped taking it. Now, why would I stop taking it? This is one of the major concerns. You want to make sure that you're not taking it continuously, because it does cause vascular growth of new vessels, which if you have a tumor sitting somewhere like on your liver, you don't want to create more vascularization of that tumor. That could be bad. But I will tell you, there are a lot of Olympic athletes who've used BPC 157. There are a lot of professional athletes in all sports that use BPC 157. And there are now more and more skateboarders, in particular vert skateboarders, who have injuries who are using BPC 157. And I don't think it's just placebo, because the mechanisms from the animal studies are very clear. The clinical trials in humans are not there because no drug companies are interested in funding those. But if you're going to get BPC 157, please, please, please get it from a board certified physician. It can be made by a compounding pharmacy, sometimes mixed with other things that are anti-inflammatory. If you want to try this, Kelly, I can put you in touch with somebody who can do this. It's very inexpensive, which is great, but I do not recommend that people go out and buy it on the internet or start taking it orally, because you don't know what you're getting and it can be problematic. But it's pretty remarkable how quickly you can recover from an injury with BPC 157.
And are we talking about
And I have no financial relationship to any company or anything related to BPC 157. I want to say, I'm not launching a BPC 157 company.
But is it because Kelly's hip, it's like a deterioration, right?
Yeah,
it's not like an injury.
It was bone on bone for so long. It was just so everything got worn down. So it was just, labrum's gone, cartilage gone, bone on bone, and then they redid it. They shaved it down and they put a cadaver labrum in there. And I can't move it the same, and I can still feel the crazy tension, but I know I can still skate, but it's stopping me from the movement.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh my God.
Let's do an experiment. Let's get you paired with the right person to do this safely, and then try it. And
I would love that, dude. Thank you. That would be amazing.
Would that work with something like a torn meniscus?
Absolutely.
I think I need to.
No, none of these things are magic, right? I mean, you still have to do the right things, right? But
I just want it for my whole body.
And listen, some people are taking it as an oral compound and they feel better, et cetera. I don't think people should take it continuously, and some people shouldn't take it at all. And you absolutely have to work with a physician to do it. But it is pretty remarkable.
I think I would just like having it as an option versus just going straight to surgery. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if there was something because I'm already getting referred to go get surgery on it, and I'm not the surgery guy. You know what I mean? I'd rather have something else as an option to try versus just jumping right into a surgery. So
right. And I think, for people who have back issues, I've done a couple episodes on back pain. There's Stu McGill's stuff. He's published over 100 peer-reviewed papers, and he's talked about McGill's Big Three. I have a video on YouTube of me doing McGill's Big Three, which are basically like a bird dog type thing, a side plank done properly, and a kind of up dog type pose or kind of cobra-like pose for people that have some back issues. It's not going to resolve all back issues, but far too many people just go direct to surgery. Far too many people go to painkillers, which is a whole slippery slope. I mean, we know a lot of people in skateboarding that have had major issues with addiction and crashed their lives or just hanging on because of that. It brings up the topic of kratom. I am pretty verbal about the fact that if you haven't taken it and you don't need to take it, don't take it, because I know people who've gotten, let's say, addicted to it, right? Reliant on it. Then again, the kratom community has been very vocal about the fact that some people need it because they couldn't access these other things they can't get anymore, and it's the better option for them. But look, if you can avoid taking painkillers, you should, right? Like, why would you take a potentially addictive substance? But if you're in extreme pain, some people get benefits from that stuff. So we've got like whey protein if you're not getting enough high quality protein, especially if you're a vegetarian. A high quality fish oil in liquid form is going to be the most cost effective. And then, I personally, right, this is not intended to be an ad, but like I personally have been using Athletic Greens as a vitamin mineral probiotic for gut health and adaptogens since 2012. Yeah, there you go.
We're
big
big.
I'm a big fan.
We're big fans also.
And
I love it.
occasionally they'll come under fire. People will just say, "Oh, it's just an expensive multivitamin." No, it's very, very high quality ingredients, and people who take it regularly feel better. Why? I think because when you cap off your vitamin and mineral needs, plus you take care of your gut microbiome, you're not just taking care of your gut health. It radiates out to heart health, brain health, skin health, immune health. And so there are a bunch of other things. But, once you get past those basics, those foundational things, then you get into if someone's having some trouble sleeping, well, okay, are you drinking alcohol close to sleep? Are you smoking weed or taking edibles? That could be problematic. But if people are doing most everything right, then you say, okay, well, try not to drink caffeine too late in the day and maybe take some magnesium threonate. Or take some magnesium bisglycinate, or take a little apigenin, or take a little theanine, I'm not a big proponent of melatonin, but maybe occasionally a half milligram or something of melatonin. Try and, not much more than that and not more frequently, but these kinds of things can help, but that's not where I would start. So the person who asked about, what supplements to take, I'd say, get your behaviors right. It's always a little bit more work, but it's certainly more cost effective. And there's just so many other positive effects of doing those things correctly. But listen, if you want hyper focus for a bout of work, sure, chew a half piece of Nicorette and you'll feel that. But if you're sleep deprived, it's not going to make much of a difference. The quality of work won't be that good. Get a great night's sleep. Hydrate first thing in the morning. I'm a big fan of yerba mate. Yes, this is the yerba mate I designed. I brought it in as a gift to you guys. I didn't know we were going to put it out on the table, but zero sugar yerba mate, or sometimes I'll brew the loose leaf yerba mate.
Tastes great.
Thanks. Yeah, and caffeine, it creates alertness and focus.
I love caffeine.
But we're not talking about taking alpha GPC combined with this, combined with that. You could do that, and you can, but that's not the place to start.
So you're saying like, let's start with the basics.
Absolutely.
Let's go with sleep. Let's go with just
sleep, nutrition, movement. So exercise, resistance training, and cardiovascular training. Again, if you're getting that from skateboarding, I'm not telling you to go out and start becoming a weightlifter or getting like really yoked. Get strong, at least get strong and keep your explosiveness. One of the things that really goes with age is the ability to jump down or to jump and land safely. I know it sounds so silly. People go, "Oh, really? Seriously?" Like, we're not geriatric here, but talk to people in their 50s and they're like, "I got this back thing." He's talking about his hips.
Yeah.
You're a young guy. You're talking about your hips. So let's get some BPC in there. Also, let's get you in the sauna cold plunge thing.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. We got
heat, cold, contrast.
Yeah.
I think we should just get a plunge here. No, I'm not kidding.
I'm down.
Andrew, we talked about that last time. I've been sitting out there waiting for the UPS guy.
Okay, so plunge. Those guys are up in
it never
Sacramento.
showed up.
That would be amazing.
So we should just get one here.
I'd be down.
And then, you just towel off and do it. You get that big adrenaline and dopamine increase before you podcast. This morning, Ian from Shankum came over. Second time over, we're recording. We're making a little series.
By the way, That's how we discovered you.
Oh, from Jenkum.
Yeah.
Oh, the
from
Carl Watson.
thing.
Watson.
And I said, I got to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Because everything pops up quickly, right? It's like, oh, what about this? What collagen? What about colostrum? Do you have
Colostrum's enriched in breast milk, so unless you have an affinity for that, you can take colostrum in supplement form. That was a joke.
But that's a big. But that's a big thing now. Is like
it's a high.
We're being pushed this colostrum. So.
I don't think that's the place to start.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's the place to start. I think it's. I think this whey protein, if you're not getting enough quality protein from food, but if you want to get your proteins from foods, great. Whole eggs, etc., fish and meat, a quality fish oil, a vitamin, mineral, probiotic supplement like Athletic Greens, or AG1, I guess they call it now.
Yeah.
Or if you really want to support gut health, another way, you could do 1 to 4 servings of low sugar fermented food per day. There's a really nice study out of Stanford School of Medicine about this. So your kimchi, sauerkraut, pickles that need to be refrigerated. People will be like, beer. No, not beer. You want low sugar, low alcohol, that kind of thing. Kombuchas, things like that. But those are actually pretty expensive. Trying to get low sugar fermented foods, 1 to 4 servings per day, gets pretty expensive. You're buying a lot of kombucha. You're buying a lot of sauerkraut. When you're on the road, it's hard to do. It's hard to get enough servings of fruits and vegetables when you're traveling. And then I guess as long as we're here, we might as well just do a little, whatever you call it, double click on this weight loss thing. For people that are heavy or have too much fat, I'll tell you what I told Rosenberg and Blayback. Well, Blayback was drinking. So we did a collaborative post on my Instagram that 5 years ago now was when Blayback and I met. We met 5 years ago, Mike. And he came up to me and he was like, I'm a pile. Well, help me out. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, drink every day, smoke weed every day. He quit that completely, cold turkey. I was like, did you go to meetings? He's like, no, I went to the gym. I was like, whoa. But that's Blayback. He's got incredible levels of discipline. So if you need to quit alcohol, please go to a meeting. This isn't this isn't a discussion about recovery, but you have an issue with alcohol, go to meetings. It helps. It works. It's proven. It's free. And it's a wonderful community resource almost everywhere in the world, I think. So Blayback and Rosenberg lost a lot of weight. Other guys have lost a lot of weight, and women have lost a lot of weight the following way. I just give the following instruction. Just say, you can eat meat, fish, eggs, fruit, and vegetables. You're not going to eat bread, pasta, rice, tortillas, anything else. If it's not in that short list, water, coffee, or tea are fine. You're not eating it. Now that, then people always start the negotiations. Like, well, can I have salsa? Okay, well, salsa's tomatoes. Yeah, I guess if it doesn't have sugar in it, okay. But how about just like eggs for breakfast and some fruit? How about a ribeye steak for dinner and a salad? Or 2 ribeye steaks. I don't care if you eat 2 ribeye steaks. Most people don't want 2 ribeye steaks. What you find is that people who've been eating a lot of processed foods and excess carbohydrates and fats together, when they switch to eating meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, and fruit, and nothing else, except, of course, drinking enough water, coffee. No, you're not drinking alcohol. No, you're not drinking milk, etc. What you find is they lose a lot of fat very, very quickly, very fast, mostly because they bring their caloric intake down below what they need each day in terms of their activity. They're in a caloric deficit, as it's called, but they're very sated. Protein is very satiating. You have a ribeye steak, you don't really want a second, but you could have a second one and a salad and you're good. Then watch, you eat 1 bite of pasta or bread and all of a sudden you're hungry for more of that. And this has to do with the way that carbohydrates impact our appetite. I'm not demonizing carbohydrates. This is not a ketogenic diet. But what you find is, and Jacob will attest, that they lose 10 pounds in the first week. Some of that's water weight, but that gets them headed in the right direction. And then, of course, they should also walk if you can't do cardiovascular exercise like running or biking or skateboarding or whatever. They should walk a lot. Everyone should probably walk a lot, unless you're pushing a lot, skateboarding around a lot, or cycling a lot or something. Then they start exercising a little bit, and then they start doing some resistance training, and they start realizing, whoa, like this is quote unquote easy. And they're recovering from exercise, and they're sleeping better, and they're feeling better, and everything's better. Libido is better, mood is better. It's like, whoa. And they go like, how come everybody doesn't know about this? Well, it's not like a specific diet that you could market. I don't even know what you would call it. And again, I have nothing vested in this. There's no book about this, but there must be a dozen or more people that I've handed this idea off to directly that have lost, and again, anywhere from probably 20 to in Mike's case, 60 pounds and kept it off for years. Now, Chris Ray did this recently. He was like, I want to get in shape. I'm feeling kind of heavy. So Chris is a naturally strong guy. He's got thick joints. He's got a lot of natural muscle build there. So he immediately started going to the gym as well. But when we were in Australia on tour, I was like, here's what you can eat. And I told him those food groups. That guy lost like 30 pounds in 2 months. He also lifts. We have to like restrict his lifting because he'll go to the gym like twice a day, every day. This is a guy where if you have an appointment to start filming at 9 a.m., he's there at 6, like waiting outside. You're like,
By the way, phenomenal skateboard.
Yeah, he's won all sorts of awards.
He's the best.
Yeah. And he wins the award of just being an awesome filmer, an amazing guy.
He's great.
And he was over this morning doing the sauna and cold plunge. When he's in, he's all in.
Yeah.
But he started eating this way too. And then he has an interesting story that he told me I could share, where one day he decided to cheat. So he had all this like pizza and ice cream and he just threw it up. And it kind of tasted, some people like Jacob has told me, when he's like, oh, I really miss, after he lost a bunch of weight, he's like, I really miss whatever it was. I don't know, sandwiches. He likes hoagies and stuff like that. I've known Jacob since we were kids. So, and he's always like snack food. So I was like, go for it, try it. And he did it and he was like, ugh. It tasted terrible. And I'm like, exactly. First bite feels okay. And then you're craving it, but you don't actually want that. It's some brain thing that we don't quite yet understand. And when you start eating clean in that way, of the meat, fish, fruits, vegetables kind of thing, you start to develop a really nice relationship between taste, calories, satiety, and nutrients. And you're eating high nutrient food, meat, fruit, and vegetables, super high nutrient food. And he's like, it's just transformed his life. And I don't take credit for this. This is well known for ages. It's just that people are always like, oh, I'm going to do this diet or I'm going to do that diet or what supplement should I take? It's like the supplement you should take is stop eating processed foods and highly processed foods, start moving more, start eating really great quality protein and fruits and vegetables, and you're going to feel like $1 million. And there it is. And he probably is putting years on his life now. And so the discussion around longevity and all this stuff, it's like, sure, there's stuff. We could talk about NMN and we could talk about PRP and we could talk about Brian Johnson and all the stuff he's doing to live forever. And, but if you do the right things consistently, like 80% of the time, you are going to get an outsized positive benefits, even if you're the guy that said that podcasts with me are boring.
I love that you're harping on that. Yeah. But here's the thing. On the opposite end of the spectrum, right, I'm skinny. Right, I've always had problems gaining weight. Right, I've always stayed a consistent like 145 around there. Can't gain or lose a pound. It's just been me. Right now, I'd like to put on a couple pounds. I've talked about it here on the show.
Train with me,
but
train with me. Just come to I have a little gym in my garage, or not so little gym. I collect some gym equipment. Come train with me. Okay. I've trained Martin, Chris. By the way, Martin Phobes, great skateboarder. He's also a filmer with Chris. They have Motion Clubhouse, although now they are partial owners of the Huberman Lab podcast and SciComm. We brought them in.
I love the fact that you
That's really
have
cool.
Like a bunch of skateboarders.
Oh, it's me. Yeah. It's me, Rob Moore, who's not a skateboarder, but came up through triathlon. So we founded the company. Mike Blayback. Yeah. And from go, I was like, hey, Rob, we're bringing this guy in as an owner. And he was like, who's this guy? I'm like, owner. He's like, okay. Amazing decision. Ian Mackey, it's not a skateboarder, was a great kid. Then we brought in Martin and Chris. And we own SciComm, which now produces another podcast, the Perform podcast with Andy Galpin, which, by the way, I might as well plug that. If you're interested in like hardcore exercise physiology, like really breaking down heart health, strength, etc., like he's been on our podcast a few times or more. He did a 6-episode series on fitness, but he's got his own great podcast. And if you really want to get down in the weeds, really nerd out on exercise physiology and what you can do, check out that podcast. But we own that
amazing
production company. And if you come to our studio, you got a picture of Kalis pushing across the bridge. Right?
I'll bring you a photo of me.
Please. Please. I love that whenever I look at you, this switch flip Manny is like,
that's
how tall is that thing, by the way?
It's about 7 feet. It's huge.
No, it's 26 or 27 inches tall. So it doesn't sound, but when you
that's big.
And when you go oh, just go back really quick. So what you're saying is not only eat that stuff, because I don't want to lose weight, right? I want to, but so eat that stuff plus the workout regimen should then put on a couple pounds.
Given that you have a hard time putting on weight, you're going to need to train specifically for muscle hypertrophy. And you're going to need to eat
so funny.
an excess of calories. There's some people who, for genetic reasons or who exhibit what's called NEAT, which is non-exercise induced thermogenesis. I know the acronym doesn't fit exactly with how I said it, but that move around a lot, have a lot of spontaneous movement, and they tend to metabolize off any extra energy they consume. You know, your brain takes up most of your daily caloric requirements. Beyond that, some other bodily organs. But a lot of people that do a lot of spontaneous movement, like bouncing, things like that, they're just naturally thin. And they have a lot of energy. And they have a hard time gaining weight. And that's not a bad thing from the longevity perspective. You'll probably live a lot longer. You certainly will live a lot longer than somebody who's obese.
Sure.
Obese people have shorter lives, right? You don't see a lot of 300-pound 80 or 90-year-olds.
Right.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Just think about that. Right? We're not shaming anyone. We're just like stating the facts. You don't see a lot of older obese animals either. You want to shorten the life of an animal, overfeed it. Okay. You want to extend life, maybe underfeed just a little bit. But you don't want to get into kind of neurotic, eating disorder territory either. So if you want to put on some weight, some solid weight, I can show you how to train. You probably have to supplement with a little bit of extra whey protein, that kind of thing.
I'd love
And how old are you now?
30.
But don't be embarrassed, dude.
46.
Yeah.
You're 46?
Yeah.
You're good, man.
Thank you, bro.
So Dron's aging
47,
backwards.
47.
Dron's
47?
older than me, man.
But speaking on the
And you
losing
had
weight,
kids.
I do. I'm gonna have another one, dude.
You have another one on the
I'm
way?
about to August 22nd.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, that's exciting.
It's
So this will
super
be
exciting.
3?
Second.
Second.
Yeah.
Second.
But speaking of the ways of losing weight now, and there's a lot of popular things going on, and I wanted to know how you felt about Ozempic, because a lot of people are using this, and like I don't know if there's like detriment things that can possibly happen later down the line by using this product, but it seems very popular. And is it safe?
Great question. So Ozempic, Mounjaro, and similar are what are called GLP-1 mimics or analogs or agonists. Anyway, GLP-1 is glucagon-like peptide. Little story here, short story. The Gila monster is a reptile that doesn't need to eat very often. And so a really smart biologist said, how come these Gila monsters, spelled G-I-L-A, don't need to eat very often? Turns out they make a ton of this peptide, which in them is called extendin, but it's similar to what was eventually discovered also in humans, which is glucagon-like peptide. Glucagon-like peptide 1 suppresses appetite. There have been drugs to increase levels of glucagon-like peptide 1 for many years, actually. This is not a new discovery.
Right.
Initially, they were used to treat diabetes, were pretty effective, but did not reduce weight. Then there were some modifications made to these GLP-1 drugs so that they increased GLP-1 levels or activity 1,000-fold. So this is the beginning of the answer to your question, which is that it's a very artificial situation to get 1,000-fold increases in GLP-1. But lo and behold, people's appetite is reduced. This showed something really important, which was that much of obesity is not about this and that. It's not about how foods are being processed, this and that. It's people eat too many calories. So when they eat fewer calories, they lose weight. So it might seem trivial, kind of like a duh, but there have been all these theories like, okay, it's seed oils. And frankly, I do avoid seed oils because I don't like the way they taste. But I don't think they are the problem. People say it's too much sugar. Sugar is not great for you. Yeah, it can be quote unquote addictive or habit forming, but let's face it, people eat too many calories, and good tasting stuff and highly savory foods, it's very easy to overeat calories.
Seems like it's hard to avoid.
Right. So unless you do meat, once you clean up your diet and you just say, I'm going to eat high quality protein, fruits and vegetables. And if you're a leaner person and you're not trying to lose weight, you say rice, oatmeal. If you're going to eat bread, maybe a good sourdough, something like that. Sure, it's fine to still have a little bit of mayonnaise, mustard on your sandwich. Like if you're healthy weight, you don't have to do the restrictive, Rosenberg Blayback thing. By the way, Blayback's slowest eater in the world. Oh my God. He eats so slowly chews his food. He takes his time. It's amazing to have a meal with him. It's just
he's the man, bro. Shout out to Mike Blayback. He came over to the house and shot some nice photos of my wife being pregnant, and I'm just so thankful that I called him and hit him up out of the blue, and he's like, sure, I'd love to do it. It's just
he's the best.
He is truly best.
He's just the best, dude. No, please. I mean, it's such an important call out to Mike. He's just the best soul. He actually reminds me a lot of Costello, my bulldog. Like, I feel like he's been like reincarnated in Mike. I'll tear up and I'll start crying like about Mike Blayback. I want to. No, I love Mike. He's like a brother to me.
He really is.
He's really like a brother to me. He's family. And when Ken Block died, you know, I went down there to San Diego and like Mike has so much heart for the people that he photographs. He and Ken were exceptionally close. I didn't know Ken. We had one phone conversation, but I didn't know him, so I'm not claiming to have known him. But Mike and him were super close. And like everyone that Mike photographs, he had told me that he was like, I'm heading to Jean's to do this. Like, he loves being able to use his incredible talent to show his love for people.
For sure.
And I know he'd probably feel awkward about me talking this way, but then he was sober 5 years. He decided to do a post about it. He never opens up about stuff. Like, he's such a great dad. He's just the best.
He's a great dude.
Yeah, he's the best. So getting back to the Ozempic Mounjaro thing, these drugs help people lose weight. For people that are really challenged reducing their appetite, it almost works like magic, how quickly they're like, they can control their appetite. That said, it's very clear from the data that some people experience nausea, and that can be problematic, although it tends to be transient. It'll pass out after some period of time of taking the drug, and it does reduce muscle weight as well. And muscle is a metabolically active tissue. What that means is that you need to stay on the drug and that you need to continue to eat less, because if you eat more, you're not going to have that furnace, that metabolically active tissue to burn up the excess calories. Okay. So it's very important that if people take these drugs that they also exercise, in particular do exercise where they either maintain or increase their muscle mass, because they become very skinny fat. Oftentimes they'll lose weight very quickly and they'll get this like very sunken face. But let's be honest. If you had to choose between losing some percentage of muscle and being thin versus being obese, in terms of long-term health outcomes, you would absolutely choose to be thin with minus some muscle.
Right.
Now, am I talking here about everyone needs to be muscular, thin, and fit? No, like people have different ideas about aesthetics and what they want, et cetera. But obesity is dangerous. Fat, we think of as a tissue, adipose tissue. Fat, we think of as in terms of its aesthetic qualities. We think about blubber, et cetera. But really, it's an endocrine organ. It produces hormones, and it can be a repository not just for calories that you could use in a famine. That's why we adapted or evolved that thing of having fat, but it also can impede the functioning of other tissues. You can get fatty liver. You get intravisceral fat not under the skin, not subcutaneous fat, but around the organs. Very, very dangerous to your long-term health. That's why sometimes you'll see skinny people that drop dead. They'll open them up and they're like filled with fat around the organs. Okay. These are often people that have what's called insulin insensitivity. So their insulin levels are very high. That's why people with type 2 diabetes, where they still make insulin, but their body is insensitive to it, if they lose weight, oftentimes their insulin sensitivity goes up. There are a lot of examples of this where people who needed drugs in order to treat their insulin levels, right, lose body fat or intravisceral fat, subcutaneous fat, and all of a sudden they don't need those drugs anymore. So, I think there's a real reason to think that these drugs are important, and I'm not anti. But I do think, just by virtue of like the Rosenberg story or the Mike Blayback story, et cetera, that if people are disciplined about their dietary intake, they can lose that weight, especially if they also exercise. But they should also not drink alcohol. If you're trying to lose weight, drinking alcohol is about the worst thing you could do.
Right.
And some people won't do what Mike did, which was to start exercising every day. They can't give up the beer or the 6-pack of beer. They can't do it. So these drugs can be very helpful. There's actually some indication that these drugs can help people reduce their alcohol intake and cravings of all kinds.
Wow.
And it's very likely that in the next few years, these drugs are going to be modified so that they no longer cause the reduction in muscle weight also. So am I a fan? Not so much. What I am a fan of is I'm a fan of people being honest with themselves about the steps they're willing to take. And if someone's like, I'm not going to exercise no matter what, but they want to lose the weight for sake of their health, then by all means do it. But again, like with supplements, if you can do it without taking anything, and these drugs do have a cost to them, then I suggest doing the right things and avoiding doing the wrong things. But I'm not anti.
But this is like would you think it's like a short-term thing if you are taking this versus, like you were saying, can you take this? Why would you want to take it forever? But is it something that you can take forever?
Well, we don't know because the experiment is kind of happening now. But the idea is that people stay on these drugs, and if they come off them, their appetite shoots back up again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like
These
your
drugs work
lifestyle.
at the level. Yeah, the drugs work at the level of the brain, at the area of the brain called the hypothalamus to reduce hunger. They also work at the level of the gut to create a feeling of fullness or distension. I think if people are exercising and eating right, that's 90% of the battle, and sleeping right. And if look, if there are people who are like 300 plus pounds, getting out and exercising actually can be hazardous. You want them to start walking and then doing more, but it can be really, they're going to potentially hurt themselves.
Right. Yeah.
So get them thinner and then get them exercising or get themselves thinner and exercising and go for it.
I think I will say something about the weight stuff. What I fluctuate like this a lot.
You?
Yeah, for sure.
With all that jump roping?
Yeah,
Seriously?
I can still jump rope like crazy, but I go from like 160 and then like 8 months later I'll be at 180.
But some of that might be muscle weight. You look pretty strong.
All right, right. I've lost 10 pounds in the last like 2 weeks because of the alcohol and the carb. I stopped that.
Yeah.
I find it hard. The hardest thing is just the getting into the lifestyle and starting that lifestyle. What's the best way? What do you have any suggestions on how to start that? Because that's always, I feel like it's always the first step is the hardest.
The food piece or the exercise piece?
Both.
I mean, really.
The exercise piece is very straightforward.
Well, for me,
get up
exercise is easy for me, but
Right.
the eating, it's like the drinking and the eating is like that's what's hard for me personally.
They're
Like on the
both
weekend,
hard for
Yeah.
me.
I say get up in the
Eating and exercising. Like
Oh,
trying to get
those
into
two.
those habits. Like just trying to get into a habit, like you're saying.
Oh yeah, like yeah, it's starting to be like your lifestyle. Like okay, stop the drinking.
Do you drink alcohol?
Yeah, I do. I'm usually on the weekends. And so then this last weekend, I was like, hey, I'm just going to chill. Like I have other stuff I want to do.
Why not just have like one or two? Is it that when you have two, then you want four?
That and then you know how if you start drinking and then your mind alters a little bit, you're like, fuck, I want to get a pizza.
Oh yeah, because
you're just like, that's just kind of natural, I guess. But
sure. Or weed will do that too.
yeah, that too. I think for me personally, I have a lot like going through my head, like my hip, and I can't skate like I used to. It hurts. I look to something else. Like I always looked at skateboarding for the weekends, and then now I'm like, okay, what do I do on the weekends?
Yeah, you need what
Yeah.
they call replacement behavior, something
Yeah.
else. Throw on a weight vest and go hiking or something. But look, it's not the same as skateboarding.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if that's your thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I love learning about science. I love running. I love weightlifting. I love. I've always enjoyed those activities. So if you tell me, hey, listen, you can't do those, and but listen, you can do ceramics, I'd be like, oh, that sucks.
You don't want to take up crochet? I heard it's
No, I mean
amazing.
ceramics is kind of cool, but but it's just not the same. It's just different circuits. I would say stack the behaviors. So this is something I get criticized a lot about, which I welcome is all these protocols. He's talking about how do you do it? How do you do all these things? Well, first of all, you don't have to do all of them. You do the ones that are relevant to you. So get up in the morning, use the bathroom, drink a big glass of water, then get outside and get some sunlight, especially on cloudy days, but on all days. While you're doing that, walk around a little bit. Don't look at your phone for the first 15 minutes. Do a little bit of deep breathing. Just kind of like shake your body out. Maybe skip some rope. 2 minutes. Like I challenge you to like 2 minutes of skipping rope first thing. Okay, you've already sort of put your body in motion.
I'll do
right?
30 minutes, dude.
There you go, 30 minutes. So now you're moving first thing in the morning. Then, drink some caffeine. You don't have to delay your caffeine 90 minutes after waking. I've said do that if you have a bad afternoon crash or if you tend to crash in the afternoon. Otherwise, have a nice strong cup of black coffee or, 2 or 3 yerba mates or something. I'll send you some, and then, and get some movement first thing in the day. When you get into a cold shower or you do a cold plunge and you do some movement early in the day, you get an increase in what are called the catecholamines, dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. And that's a long arc of release. So then you have more energy to do more things. I find personally that if I work out or do some sort of movement before 9 a.m., I have more energy all day long. Mm-hmm. If I wait until late or mid-morning, I tend to be kind of tired after lunch. This is just me. Everyone's different. Or pull a Jocko, wake up at 4:30 and train. I mean, that's brutal, but you'll you will have accomplished more by 7 a.m. than most people, even if you go back to sleep for an hour. Although he'd probably kill me for saying that. So if you just force yourself to do it for 2 or 3 days in a row, what you'll find is that you'll start waking up earlier just as a natural consequence of that training. It's this thing called circadian entrainment, where if you do an activity at the same time each day, you tend to anticipate that activity. That's true for bad stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and with alcohol and weed, again, I'm going to leave cannabis off the table because some people, that's just like their thing. And I don't judge. And I think with alcohol, there's like zero health benefits of alcohol. And then people say, well, I have an uncle or a grandfather, they lived to be 102 and they drank every day. But like, great, well, they could have lived to be 110. And like, great, you have awesome genetics. Congratulations. Like, I don't care of what people do as long as they're not drinking and driving or harming somebody, right? But I would say 2 drinks per week maximum, or just quit drinking and just say, I'm going to do a sober month. And just see how you feel. And if it sucks and you hate it and like life is miserable, go back to it. But if you feel better, like
Sucks
I talked
without a beer.
Yeah,
man.
I talked to Bert Kreischer about this. I mean, Bert doesn't want to quit drinking. He loves drinking. He talks about it. But most people just feel better.
Yeah.
And then you'll start noticing like, oh, you have that much more like mental focus. And, like this guy's about to have another kid. So he's heading into the sleep deprivation trench. Yeah. So I would say as you do that, start doing other things to offset that.
Yeah.
1 extra packet a day of AG. No kidding, to keep your microbiome healthy. Yeah, like 2 or 3 a day even. Okay. If you're sleep deprived, right? Like do other things, a little bit more movement, a little bit more sunlight,
right.
A little bit more stress reduction because you're going to be sleep deprived. What tends to happen is people tend to not do the basics and then they kind of let everything go. Or it's like they did the pizza, so then the next day they're like, well, F it. I'm just going to do that. When it really should be, well, the next day, like fast. Or if you have any issue with weight, I would say skip breakfast and try and get to lunch and just go lunch, dinner, and try not to eat too late before bed.
I do the intermittent fasting. I don't eat until after noon. Like I'm just naturally like that.
Same.
Yeah, I don't eat, and then I don't eat after like 8 or 9 or something. And I'm chilling.
Cool. Try the Rosenberg diet.
There you go.
What is he? Does he does intermittent fasting?
Yeah, and he does the high quality protein, fruits and vegetables. But if you're very active, if you're doing a bunch of other things, then yeah, enjoy a plate of pasta every now and again. Enjoy some rice or some oatmeal or some sourdough bread. I mean, you don't have to be neurotic, right? And but you seem healthy to me.
I feel a lot better now.
Yeah.
I've been doing 200 push-ups a day.
200 push-ups.
Yeah, because I do like 100 in the morning, 100
He's
later.
got a lot of energy.
I don't know who this guy is
Okay.
right now.
It's just fucking this stuff right here.
Yeah, no, that'll do it. Yeah, that'll do it.
Going back to what you were saying about Mike Blaylock eating so slow, I've never seen anybody eat faster. He
I will
devours it.
Yeah,
He's got a whole salad
I eat
ear
quickly,
one.
too.
I look away, look back. He's like throwing it away. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah.
He just
There you
inhaled
go.
it through his nose.
Yeah. You guys being so close to Erewhon is it's a double-edged sword.
wow.
But, so that's a lot on nutrition. I think we checked off the box on supplements. If you want to try something to focus more, you could do 600 milligrams of alpha GPC and a cup of coffee. But is that the place to start? No, the place to start is with a great night's sleep.
I would like to change the subject and kind of go into like what a lot of people were talking about in our questions. Like Louis Barletta said it the best. He said, "I'm curious to know any research on the risks in relationship of CTE." A lot of CTE questions about that. And the daily abuse on our brains take from a normal day of slamming. So not concussion based, but just a normal day of slamming. Not concussion, hit your head on the cement slams, just everyday skating bails. I ask because of the prevalence of, people taking their own lives, depression and mental illness within the skateboarding ranks, and wonder if there's a direct link.
Yeah. Great and important question. Before I answer, I'm not aware of this increase in suicides. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Is it really an increase in suicides, or more people are skateboarding and more people are communicating about people by virtue of social media? Like, we don't want to confuse correlation and causation. We don't want to quickly go to, okay, skateboarding, people are getting some head injury, suicide. That can happen, surely. But there are also just a lot more people skateboarding than there were 20 years ago.
This is true.
And depression rates are up, suicide rates are up.
Across the board.
Across
Mental health
the board.
issues are up.
Right, but there are certain communities, like in the veterans community, it's 20 suicides per day. And that might be a low end estimate.
Do we know why?
PTSD.
No, but not.
Yeah.
But why is it across the board? Why is depression and mental health a thing? Is it the food we're eating? Is it the?
I think the number one reason that we can really look to is lack of healthy social connection.
Yeah, okay.
Isolation.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And you say, well, everyone's on text, everyone's saying, but that's very different than this kind of interaction, or a FaceTime or a Zoom type interaction.
Mm-hmm.
People are isolated. There's less of a community feel. People, I would say, for some reason, people that were teens in the 90s and early 2000s seems to be especially prevalent in there. Mm. And yes, maybe there's something food related, but I think if we really look at the data, it's that people are isolated. One of the best things that ever happened to me was kind of emergence of this practice where first thing in the morning, I hear from a couple different friends, just good morning. And I always exchange a good morning. And if I don't hear from them and they don't hear from me, we're worried. And that's not because I was in a pit of despair, although I've had some hard times recently and previously, and they have too. But every single morning, I'm going to see a text from these two or three people. A couple of them are in skateboarding. Yeah. And we just check in on one another. And that's very reassuring. We're a social species. I could go on a whole, thing about evolutionary biology and the fact that, knowing that we're safe by virtue of belonging to a tribe, et cetera. We could say, well, does Instagram do that or does it erode that? And we could get into all sorts of theories, but it seems so simple. But the data really point to the fact that if you just have one or two really close friends that you can just text first thing in the morning, good morning, how'd you sleep? Slept like shit. Oh, bummer. What are you doing today? Just ask, what's your plan for the day? Well, I'm going to do this, this, and this.
Because
Awesome.
we used to get phone calls before all this stuff to go out and go skate and go do these things.
Yeah. Or for us, like roll up to the front five at Stanford, Embarcadero. We don't want to make this historical. I told myself before this podcast, we always make it historical.
But always going back to his EMB days.
Yeah, well, and I wasn't a central figure there. Like I always say this, like I wasn't a central figure. I could roll up and I'd be safe. Like Kelch was always cool. Actually, Kelch and I followed each other back. I'm still afraid of that guy. I'm still afraid of him. Even though I know he's totally squared away now, like I'm still afraid of him. Yeah. I was up at the Deluxe office a little while ago, 2 weeks ago, visiting Jim, and there's this photo of James when he had the like stitches and the black eyes. I was like, man, like he was gnarly. He was gnarly, but he was always cool to me. But the idea is that you can hear from people that love you and that you love. I'm not being sentimental about this. This is so core to our needs as a species. We need to feel, you've got kids, and so this will resonate with you, especially like any other dads in here? Okay.
I'm a cat dad.
You're a cat dad?
Yeah.
All right, well, they need this too, but it's a little different.
Okay.
Cats are weird creatures, but
Andrew,
I love
be careful,
cats.
bro. Be careful.
Do you have those nude cats?
What? What are
Okay.
you talking about? This is a G-rated
I've
show.
seen
that
those
have
things.
no hair.
No.
People need
My
to
cat has
feel safe and accepted. Like accepted for who they are. Like if you're the person who makes dumb jokes every once in a while and people love you anyway, you're accepted. Like those people. They might tease you, but they love you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Safe and accepted, right? You're not gonna be cast out for being you, right? This is so central to our feelings of being like okay in the world. And a lot of people feel isolated. They feel shame. They feel like no one cares or they're letting everybody down. Mm-hmm. There's so many reasons why people harm themselves. And they all come back to people feeling like they don't have any real sense of belonging or they feel that they're failing somehow. And
Also, you just feel alone sometimes.
And that's okay, but it's not okay to feel so alone that you want to off yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
That is not the way it's supposed to work. We are wired to be connected to people in positive ways. And I think that a morning check-in is unbelievably powerful. I know it sounds almost corny, but if I get taken out tomorrow, bullet buster cancer, like I want people to hear this because it's more important than anything else. And yes, you still need to get morning sunlight and do all this stuff for your physiology, but to bolster your sense of well-being and connectedness and guard against mental health issues, you have to be connected. And so if you say, well, no one's checking in on me, you need to initiate that.
Sure.
So I'll just say, I get a text every morning from my friend Tim. I reach back.
Yeah.
If I don't hear from him by noon, I don't worry about him. I kind of worry about everything. Like it's just part of the morning thing. If you live with someone, you're partnered, you still need to do this with people outside of your home. checking in on people. It's not like, are you okay? It's like just good morning. Good morning. What are you doing today? Okay, cool. It's so vital to just know that we're part of a larger ecosystem. And I think most people don't have that. And they're going on to Instagram and they're going on to Twitter, which are wonderful tools. And there's a lot of entertainment and a lot of learning value there. And I watch 9 Club. I really do. I'm a subscriber. I teach on Instagram, teach on YouTube and podcasts. But that's a very different level of connection. Comment sections, different level of connection. So the increase in suicide could be due to all sorts of things, but that social connection piece is vital. And then, of course, we all have to take personal responsibility for getting our morning sunlight, hydrating, getting our sleep right. When you look at people who've committed suicide, typically if you do the back analysis, what you find is that their sleep patterns were disrupted. They become a little bit more nocturnal.
I think we talked about this last episode.
It's something to watch for. And if somebody reaches out and they're like, you think it's hurting or you haven't heard from them for a while, again, I know skateboarders are going to be like, what is this public service announcement? It's like, no, actually this is, when you get the call about somebody, actually I have a good friend who I used to see at the gym a lot. And he went like 4 months ago and everyone was like, what? Well, we missed the signs. And he was all smiles and everything, all good. We missed the signs. Now he had some other issues going on, but it pays to check in on a few people. You don't have to do this for everybody, but you need to do it. And it's all of this is made worse by drugs and alcohol and that kind of thing. But that's key. Now, head injuries.
CTE.
You hit your head enough times, you're going to have brain damage. Is that brain damage going to diminish your cognitive capacity? Is it going to make you depressed? Depends on how hard and how many times you hit your head.
Does it depend where you're hitting your head?
Absolutely.
Back of the head, side of the head, front of the head?
Yeah, hockey players are among the worst impacted by this. Those repeated low-level hits are just body check.
Football players.
Football players.
Yeah.
Even the soccer players with heading the ball, though it's not that extreme. Here's what I think. Skateboarding, falling, rolling, most of the time, street skateboarding not going to be an issue. Now,
because I think this is a
handrail, handrail to the dome.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, you probably have some frontal lobe damage. Here's the thing: if you hit your head hard, don't hit it again hard for a very long time. Now, I say that, but skateboarders are like, well, you're basically telling me to quit skateboarding. So, trying to hit your head hard. I don't know. Maybe this kid that wears the helmet, maybe he's smarter than everyone. The rest
Anderson,
of us.
bro.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, to me, if you wore a helmet riding street when I was growing up, you'd catch a lot of ridicule.
Sure.
He might change the landscape of things.
I think he's changed a lot of people's minds.
Okay. So I think
it's a 2-part question though. I think it's hitting your head directly, but also just taking slams repeatedly that are just jarring your head.
Yeah,
right?
well, you need to roll.
Jerking your
You need to roll.
Yeah.
You need to roll. You also, if you're really serious about limiting the amount of brain damage you're getting from just the whiplash type thing, you got to train your neck. I talk about this, and there's some good videos online, like Jeff Cavalier from Athlete X. He's not a really big guy. I mean, he's very muscular, very toned, as you would say, but he shows how to train neck. I started training my neck years ago because I kept hurting my neck, falling, and like neck pain. So you can train your neck. I wouldn't do bridges like wrestlers' bridges because you can disrupt the discs and hurt yourself, but you can lie on a bench and use hand-based resistance or a weight wrapped in a towel. Get that neck strong. That's life insurance and brain insurance. But you don't want to hit your head, bam. But you're talking about that kind of whiplash thing.
Yeah.
You can take a fair amount of that, If we were talking about martial arts, you'd say jiu-jitsu way better than boxing because you're not getting hit. But, if you're getting thrown around a lot, there's some whipping around of the brain in there.
Jarring.
Right. That said, skateboarders are also moving a lot more, so their cardiovascular health is going to be very good compared to people that don't move a lot. So you always have to balance these things, right? We're not talking about the difference between becoming a deep sea free diver or no, in which case I'd say don't do it. It's a very dangerous sport. Or, free soloing El Cap, very dangerous, high risk, high consequence. There's only one guy that should do that, and he probably shouldn't do it anymore because he did it. He's done.
Yeah.
So, you have to weigh that. If you love your sport, skateboarding, and you're worried about CTE, you have to ask yourself, all right, well, are you going to do some harm reduction, hazard reduction? And, risk consequence. Like, what are you willing to do for a video part? I mean, those GX1000 guys are risking their life every time. It makes for great entertainment for me. Is that more or less dangerous than, say, I don't know, somebody skating vert? Well, you'd say, well, vert, you can knee slide out, like you knee bail. But the slams are pretty gnarly when they happen. Sure. So it's all a trade-off.
Jamie Foy skating a big handrail and getting pitched to the bottom,
Yeah.
slamming his head, or side of his face.
Yeah.
Are there different? I mean, I'm sure there are, but are there different? There's different levels, I would assume, of CTE.
Oh, yeah.
And like how
Yeah.
devastating that could be.
And there's huge genetic differences in terms of susceptibility to brain damage from just repetitive impact rolling like whiplash. Some people unaffected, just like some
Really?
people box for a whole career and, they're not going to get smarter as a consequence, but they get hit. They're all right.
How do they figure that out? That's
Well,
crazy.
some people just have more of a susceptibility, and sometimes also, like for instance, the Muhammad Ali thing, the Parkinson's thing, maybe it was genetic predisposition. It might have also been that he caught a hit, and we have what's called the 2-hit model, where, for instance, if you listen to music very loud in your headphones, and then 2 days later you hear a gunshot goes off too close to your ear, you can lose your hearing permanently. So whereas each one of those things separated in time might not have impacted your hearing. Same thing with brain damage. If you hit your head hard, I highly recommend you take good care of your brain for a little while. Try not to hit your head hard again for a while, a year at least. Make sure your sleep is back on point, etc. And depending on your age and your goals, that might be time to say, hey, listen, I'm going to go, work in the industry and not be that guy who is just, destroying himself. I mean, I think that, you have to be smart about these things. Your brain is the master controller of everything. So, like I grew up in the gnarliest guys were like first Frankie Hill. He was a guy like pushing,
He was
right?
gnarly, yeah.
He knew when to get out, went and became an orthodontist, as I recall. And then now he's back skateboarding, Cardiel, it seemed like he could roll or run out of anything. He had the other thing happen, but I mean, he just seemed to just bounce and roll and pop out of everything. So you have to get good at protecting your head. I think that if you've hit your head hard in the last year, you want to be very careful about hitting your head hard again. Also, again, not to sound like a repeating record, but alcohol is going to reduce oxygen uptake by the brain. You're becoming more hypoxic. You don't want to do stupid stuff like, holding your breath for long periods of time, like these stupid things that deprive your brain of oxygen, because that's how you lose neurons. But the CTE of just kind of like regular falls, regular slams, running out of tricks, the occasional head hit, you got a skull, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. If you find yourself slowing considerably or stuttering or not being oriented, assuming you're sleeping right and you're not, consuming outrageous amounts of THC, and that's the reason, well, pay attention to that, because you may have a genetic predisposition to some cognitive decline, and everybody's different. Mm-hmm. I boxed for a short while of about 3 years where I sparred on Wednesday nights. I do not recommend it. I did this in my 30s when I was an assistant professor prior to getting tenure. And I got hit a fair amount, and I hit a few guys a fair amount, and it wasn't worth it. Like, honestly, it wasn't worth it. It just, I wasn't going to have a career in it. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot to be learned from martial arts. I should have picked a martial art where I wasn't getting hit. But I loved boxing, so I did it. It's on me. Let's hope I keep my mental faculties as I go on.
So CTE, devastating. It's a devastating thing, right? You gotta.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Once this stuff catches hold, and it can be progressive, right? And there's inflammation of the brain, and people aren't sleeping as much. Then there's more inflammation of the brain. Then people start going, okay, what should I do? Should I do hyperbaric chamber? And should I take turmeric in high levels? And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's going to help a bit, but these things can really start to cascade. I don't want to, cause unnecessary alarm, but I would say, there are guys like Tony, who skateboarded a long time. I'm sure he's hit his head a few times, but he takes the precautions that he can. Lizzie had that slam. One of those, you want to be very careful to not get another one of those anytime soon, but she seems okay. Thank goodness.
She's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And, seems like she takes really good care of herself.
She was also wearing a helmet too. And it was mostly her body, I think, that took the brunt of that. And Tony, the vert skaters, I mean, it's almost protocol for the helmet,
Right.
right? For street skaters, not so much.
Yeah. And, that's kind of social, cultural.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, to this day, it's hard for me just because I come from the generation where you just didn't wear a helmet street skating. Or if you were on a street course back then, even you'd like leave the strap on. Like it was just not something you did. But then again, there weren't a lot of head bash slams anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, handrails obviously, but there just weren't. Yeah. And as most people know, if you go faster, things look better, and you tend to roll out of things. It's like now handrails are a whole other business because, you can hurt yourself badly, but no matter what. But I think that the CTE thing it's very hard to tack to increase suicide rate directly, but it's not going to help. It's not going to help matters. Also, when you get a good hard head dinger, you don't feel quite right for a few days. And being kind of divorced from your normal self is a very uncomfortable thing. And you can start to kind of question, like you don't feel quite right in the world. And I know this I've had a few concussions in my time. And the answer is very simple. Don't get another one. Stay out of the super hot sauna if you got a hard concussion recently. And, I told Ellis this, Jason Ellis. Mm-hmm. I was like, a few years back, I'm like, you're doing the stunt thing, you're skateboarding, and you're fighting. Enough. Like enough. I was kind of I'm not going to try and dad Ellis, but I was like, listen, enough. Like pick one. Just pick one. So he picked skateboarding. I think that was a really good choice. There's no reason for him to be jumping through like rings of flames and plus the thing. And then I also told him, and he's been very open about this, like no more kratom, dude. Not just stop. And he stopped. He quit. Ellis has really powerful self-discipline when he wants to. And now he does comedy. Right. That's great. Well, at least he's not hitting his head. Totally. So we love you, Jason. You're a little outrageous for sometimes. Like some of your routines, I was just like, really? But I love that he needs to self-express that way. So try and do it in a way that you don't hit your head. So I think the CTE thing is, if you're let's just be really logical. If you're really in love with skateboarding and you do not want to quit, pushing as hard as you can, and you're worried about CTE, you're going to have to wear a helmet. Mm-hmm, right. But then people are like, oh, I want to wear a helmet. Well, then you're not really worried about CTE.
Right.
So we just have to be hyper logical.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's another question from our Instagram. This is from Andrea BNTZZ. It would be amazing if you could talk about how hormonal changes in PMS affect performance in skateboarding physically and psychologically.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
because there's a lot. I mean, the women's skateboarding is off the chain.
Oh, they rip.
It's so amazing.
Oh, they're so good. Very different landscape now than when I was coming up. When 100%. There were very, very few female skateboarders. Now it's awesome to see. Well, I mean, the hormone changes that occur across the menstrual, aka ovulatory cycle, are fairly dramatic, right? That's what drives the cycle of ovulation and menstruation. I've done entire episodes about this. We had Dr. Mary Claire Haver on the podcast talking about perimenopause, menopause, which may sound like a very late life thing, but perimenopause is sometimes occurring in women as early as their 30s now. The menstrual cycle, obviously taking place from puberty forward. And for some women, there are very dramatic physiological and mood-based changes depending on where they are in the cycle. For other women, less so. The relationship between hormone cycles and training in women has been made clear, or clearest I should say, to me by a woman by the name of Dr. Stacy Sims, who used to be at Stanford and is like the person in this area, as far as I know, and is very, very thoughtful about this, and says, for instance, some women find that doing any kind of training or skateboarding fasted is more challenging at certain parts of their cycle, in which case they should consume a small amount of collagen or other protein in their coffee in the morning. For instance, this might seem like a small thing, but turns out that it's a robust enough observation that she felt like that was an important thing to know. That, you may be able to go out and skateboard fasted in some periods of your cycle, but not others. Some women nowadays find that they need to adjust their training intensity according to where they are in their cycle. It's highly individual. Some women, not an issue. Some women, it's a powerful issue. They need to adjust that. Either intensity or duration of. These are real things. You know, I think one of the exciting things about the public health information space is people are finally starting to talk about perimenopause, menopause. This is going to affect half of our human population, inevitably, right? At some point, they stop menstruating. And there are a bunch of hormone changes and hormone therapies that can be used to offset some of those changes that could be beneficial. I think if somebody notices that they are feeling more or less resilient, more or less energetic, more or less whatever during certain phases of their cycle, the best suggestion is to keep a journal of that, a private journal of that, and to start to look for consistent themes that emerge from month to month. Keeping in mind that the menstrual ovulatory cycle is not always perfectly 28 days. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer, depending on the person. And of course, there's all sorts of things related to, you know, if there's a lot of stress in one's life, these things can be exacerbated. So keeping a journal of these things can be really, really helpful. And then adjusting the intensity of what you do accordingly. Some people will find that during particular phases of their cycle, they can really get after it in ways that even surprise them. And that's because, you know, it's not just about estrogen. It's about estrogen and progestins. It's about, it's kind of interesting to note that women have higher levels of testosterone than estrogen. Did you know that? If you normalize for the units in a blood test, and you put everything nanograms per deciliter, they have higher levels of testosterone than estrogen, than estradiol. That's normal in an adult woman. It's just so happens that they have, on average, lower levels of testosterone than do men. And men have estrogen as well. So it's also true that across the menstrual cycle, there's huge variation in these hormones. Whereas in men, they tend to be more consistent, although with a gradual decline in testosterone over time. So it's also good to know that there are a number of different supplements and hormone treatments that are now available to women, like hormone replacement therapy depending on when they're approaching menopause, that have been shown to dramatically improve the quality of life. And so this is something people can look up. Dr. Mary Claire Haver's work, a really terrific resource for female specific, also male, men will like the information there too, but female specific training and nutrition. And as it relates to some of these things is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's been a guest on my podcast. She has her own terrific podcast that's geared towards men and women, but she talks about training in nutrition and supplementation specifically for women in some cases who are athletes. She's super fit. She's a mom of 2 kids. She's super smart. She's an MD. So this is a legitimate source of information. And I would say that's a great place to explore. But she's going to say, get 1 gram of quality protein per pound of body weight. She's going to say, hydrate properly. She's going to say, caffeine can be very beneficial. She's going to say training with weights can be very beneficial to offset, in some cases, some of those ovulatory cycle or menstrual cycle dependent shifts in psychology and biology. And there's just a ton of information there. And we did an episode about all that with her. But yeah, those are real things. It's just the amplitude of those changes is going to vary from person to person and across the lifespan. Whereas with men, it tends to vary across the lifespan, but more gradually. Like I actually feel better at 49 than I did at 29 because I'm sleeping better. I'm sleeping better because I'm doing a bunch of other things. So I don't think that you feel worse as you age. I don't. I think you tend to take better care. If you take better care as you age, you can feel better than you did at a younger age. I do.
Like that.
I have a question. Or do you want to, I don't know, Chris, where you want to go, but I had something I wanted to ask. I said this earlier to the group, but so we all know there's things, addictive substances, and I've always just kind of wondered, I love skateboarding, we love skateboarding, it's like addictive, but is there really a thing of like addictive personality?
Yeah, so we can define addiction as a progressive narrowing of the things that give you pleasure, but the caveat being that if you love skateboarding, are you addicted to skateboarding? Well, I guess the question is like, who would you harm in order to be able to skateboard, right? If it was taken away from you, probably no one, right?
Yeah.
So let's hope. So I think
time away from your loved ones because you're spending so much time skateboarding.
Yeah, which makes you happy, which makes you better father,
for sure.
You know, and you're not going to do it to the point where you crater your life.
Totally.
Whereas some people will do a substance or a behavior to the point where they destroy their entire life.
Yep.
And they cannot stop.
Yep.
There's, dispute in the different fields of psychology, psychiatry, and addictive medicine as to what constitutes an addiction. But if it's repeated and maladaptive and progressive, well, then you're probably looking at it an addiction.
Do you think that's addictive would be always in a negative way?
No, I think what you're talking about is a little bit of compulsivity.
Okay.
And also, if you're addicted to, like some people in the finance sector are addicted to money, like that movie Wall Street, what's your number? And the guy just goes, more, right? Skateboarding, making a trick, maybe learning or degrees or whatever it is, or if you're in tech or whatever it is, skateboarding, the currency of motivation is dopamine, right? If nothing else, I like to think that I've inspired people to get morning sunlight and to think about dopamine a little differently. Dopamine is not about pleasure. Dopamine is about the pursuit of things, okay? So when you are motivated to go do something, to learn a trick or to pursue a business idea or a romantic partner, that's dopamine. It gets you in forward motion. The pleasure associated with the goal is actually, it involves dopamine to some extent, but it's other things to a greater extent. So if you are a quote unquote addictive personality, you're probably somebody who really enjoys the feeling of being in pursuit of goals. If your goal is, switch flip Manny,
there you go,
up this 27-inch high block, then or if or if it's to make X number of dollars or to find a romantic partner with whom you can create a family with, whatever you're in the landscape of the currency of dopamine being a motivator. So, and some people love that feeling of being in pursuit, and some people are less driven in that way. Some people are just more content with what they have and they're like more laid back. Then again, there are these people I've observed, I don't know them well, that just seem like really happy and are also really goal oriented. I think about to me, I don't know his inner world. How could I? But the happiest appearing human I've ever been around, and I don't know him well, is Ray Barbie. Yeah. The guy's always smiling. Right. Or Martin Phobes, who works for our podcast, just always happy. I'm sure they have their lows. I don't want to take away from their life experience, but just happy. And Ray's also got that wild front side 360 shove it thing that he does, that when everyone else does it looks stupid and he does it looks amazing. How is
Ray
that?
Barbie.
It's Ray Barbie. Yeah. He's just got that, right? And then there are people that are a bit more neurotic and they're in pursuit of things. They never seem to be in pleasure. They have to be reminded hey, you did great, you enjoy, and be yeah, but they're the yeah, but people.
Yeah, that's that's like someone filming a trick. They're yeah, that was good, but it's not good enough. I need to keep. Is that kind of what you're saying on that?
Sure. And you got your Tiger Woods types, right? And he had, I don't know what actually happened, but it seems like he had some compulsive behaviors that got him into some issues. And, you have other people that get into drug and alcohol issues. These things often run together, and, I think part of being a functional adult is learning how to, when you're a camp counselor, as I was years ago, you get these kids that are really rambunctious, and someone smart pulled me aside and was like, be a channel, not a dam. And you're like, okay, that kid's going to stack wood. The kid's like, stack wood, stack wood, stack wood, and then you got your mellower kids. They're like, I don't want to stack wood. I don't want to do anything. And you're like, all right, you just chill over there. Be a channel, not a dam. You'd be like, why don't you just kind of sit there and cheer people on? And they're all, So, I think that we tend to have different baseline levels of these neurotransmitters and how they work. Dopamine, I think some people are just more driven. Some people are more forward center of mass. Some people need to kick their own asses psychologically to become that. I know David Goggins reasonably well, about as well as anyone who doesn't know him well could, in the sense that he spends a lot of time with his partner. He's got his close circle. I'm not part of that close circle, but I've known David since, I met him in 2017, long before podcasts. He was on podcasts, I was on podcasts. He's always been the same. He's always been super forward center of mass, get after it. And by his own account, he had to take his 300 plus pound self and basically scruff himself and force himself to become this other person who's highly motivated because previously he wasn't. That's his report. So you can intervene in the self and become like that. I also think there is a very beautiful relationship between physical activity and psychological forward motion. When you are pushing into the morning, all right, get up. It's so tempting for many of us, myself included, like start scrolling in bed. Don't do it. Get out of bed. If you need more rest, do a non-sleep deep rest, go back to sleep, whatever. But then get out of bed, use the bathroom, get outside, drink some water, skip some rope, do some push-ups, swing your limbs, whatever. Get into forward center of mass. And then try and avoid passive activities that just waste your life. It's fun to get on Instagram and kind of answer a few things, but then like get out and go do something. Check in with friends in the morning. Like when you start doing these things that are physical forward center of mass, you start noticing you have more energy to do that, and then settling down and stopping becomes more challenging. Like when I went on Jocko's podcast, we went the first time 5.5 hours. He came on my podcast 5 hours. The other day I did a podcast with Lane Norton, who's kind of like the guy in nutrition and training. It's a ton of energy, and we went 6 hours. But you know, I'm basically, it might surprise you, I'm a pretty mellow guy. Drink a lot of caffeine, be alert, but I sleep well at night. And you know, there's days when I feel lazy.
Yeah.
So am I an addictive personality? I don't know. But once I get fixated on something, I'm highly fixated. I have to remind myself to enjoy the process. Some people, again, I don't know what his inner landscape is like, but some people are more Ray Barbie about it, right? Carl Watson seems like a happy dude. I'm sure he has his down days, but there's some people that are always doing things. They're always kind of cheerful and going. Those are fun people to be around because it's very motivating to be around people who are motivated and are happy in the process. It's kind of annoying or difficult to be around people who are yeah, but, you know, you got to stop and smell the roses every once in a while. But sometimes the roses are forward movement. It's not about just basking in what you have. So, you know, it takes all forms. You know, we're a lot like dogs. Some dogs are like, and other dogs are like my dog, you know, my old bulldog. I'm probably going to get another one soon. They just like chill. Yeah. Just like, why move? You know, like it's great right here, you know? So I think know who you are, and then kind of, I would say it's wise. I think you can create a much better life for yourself and people close to you by being a little bit more forward center of mass around a few key pursuits, and around the rest of the stuff, just like chill. Like that's my advice.
Do doctors, are they like, oh, you have a addictive personality? Is that like a thing that's like in the medical use, like, or medical terms?
Yeah, I mean, there are people who get sober from alcohol and then pick up a drug habit, or get sober from drugs and then what are those? It's not a show I watched, but they seem to always pop up on my Instagram. But like all those like Jackass guys, right? They're like shooting themselves out of cannons and like doing all this crazy stuff, and then it's hard to go from something like that to like, oh, you know, you're going to be a meditation teacher. Probably not going to happen, right? But you know, that for instance, I get accused of name dropping, but he's a very close friend. We communicate every day. Rick Rubin, blessed to have him as a close friend. And Rick loves professional wrestling. He watches 10 hours a week of professional wrestling. He learns from it. He sees it as very interesting human interactions played out in a venue where no one's getting hurt. He likes it. We actually went to the AEW together. It was fun. You know, Rick is a mellow guy, but he's got projects upon projects. He's making documentaries. He's doing music. He's got a podcast, Tetragrammaton. I mean, he's consuming ideas. So he's like voracious. Is he an addictive personality? No. How does he have so much energy, and how does he produce so much incredible creative content? By staying super calm and super aware. So some people are like, and other people like Rick are more like locked in. Yeah.
Is that a good work ethic, or is that, you know,
I think
that's a part of it, right?
I think as long as you're sleeping well at night on a consistent basis, if you get up and it's go, 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 great. Some people are more neurotic than others. They perseverate, as we say, on things that are useless. That person with that comment, people are going to say, oh, it was I like the other person that, oh, like he tends to go long. That's my format. That's me. I wouldn't say I'm hyperverbal, but I err that way. Other people are quieter. Playback, he does this, right? I do this.
It's also you're on a podcast, which is long form content.
Yeah. So, you know,
go figure.
And so I'm sort of using that as a jumping off point. Individual differences to me are to be celebrated, right? But you can be a very quote unquote addictive personality without being maladaptively addicted to anything, as long as it's not diminishing your life. My life has gotten way better as a consequence of podcasting. I share information that I do believe is of use to the world. I share it for free. I do it with people I love. I love doing it. And yes, I make a living doing it. So there's a pain point, which is I'm public facing. We could talk about that. Comes with a cost, but that's a cost that's a trade-off that I'm willing to live with. In fact, that to me, it's like 99% positive, 1% negative, just because of the way it impacts me.
How do you deal with that though? I mean, like as a person who wants to just share information, right? And your whole thing is like, hey, this is a zero cost thing. Right. I'm not charging money for this. This is just information that you have podcasts with incredible people, and you always get criticized for damn near everything. If you said hello, you'd probably get criticized for that. Like, how do you?
Yeah.
And I know you read the comments too, because you respond to a lot of people.
I think there's a lot of information there.
Right. Yeah. But how do you deal with providing information you just want to share and maybe better people's lives, and get, kind of slapped around a little bit? Like,
they try.
Yeah, they try, right. That's real.
I'm human.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and make this educational as I do everything, in the sense that if you're not me and you're not public facing, or if you are, but if you're not, I like to think that some of what I'm about to say extends to everyone who has an online presence.
Well, I think a lot of people can be a victim of it.
Definitely. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're famous or not.
Yeah. So you need a stance, like a life stance. And for me, I have very close friends and family, people that I love and that love me. So that's like, the circle is really small.
That foundation is real.
Yeah, that foundation is real, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm very blessed to have that. And I've worked hard at it. And I put a lot of work into it. I check in with people in the morning. I do it out of love. I like to think they do it out of love for me. So my foundation is that, right? It's not the podcast. I love the podcast. I love my work. But I have that people that really know me, that I feel safety and acceptance with. And that I hope that they feel safe and accepted with me. That's the key. Mm-hmm. You don't need many of those people, but you need a few. And if you don't have them, you need to put some work into building that.
Those few are really going to tell you how it is.
Yes. Yeah. How it is, and I just can rely on them. I've got people that I love, and I love them. I've got things that I love doing. Like getting that morning sunlight for me is more about, just touching in with life. I think like anybody, my mind can start drifting into the past, things that have happened, good and bad. I can start future tripping. It's about getting like really present. We have the unit of the day, leaning into that. Some of the best advice I ever got recently was, wake up and just think, what can I do to make today a little bit better for me and for the people around me and for the world? Just that. That's probably the best advice I've ever gotten. Because it's not about comparing yourself to yesterday or these little mantras. It's like, what can I do to make today better? Mm-hmm. For me, for the people around me, for the world.
Right.
If it's pick up a piece of trash, I know people are like, oh God, this guy sounds like a grade school. No, actually a little better. You can do those things. And there are a lot of other things you can do. Okay. So there's that core. Then there's the work, and the fact that the work is public facing. And I do believe, because it's zero cost, because it's science-based, and because 90% of what I talk about are do's and don'ts that are behaviors. You don't have to purchase anything to do them. It's a give. It's my offering.
Right.
And people have agency. They don't have to listen to it, let alone do the stuff, right? They don't have to listen. If I'm popping up in your feed anyway, like, don't blame me, But
the algorithm's working.
Yeah, exactly. The algorithm's working. And it is zero cost. And people will say, well, but the ads are intrusive. If you have thumbs, or even if you don't, you scan past them. It's okay. That makes it zero cost to people. Now, the supplement piece, cold plunges, that stuff tends to become the focus. People are like, he's the cold plunge supplement guy. It's all about selling this or that. And we run advertisements so it can be zero cost to people. I do only advertise things that I truly love and use. There are also a lot of ads out there that are not approved by me, like the whole jaw thing that was AI generated.
AI.
Really? Do you think I'd? Oh yeah.
I mean, it looked like it was totally you saying.
Do you think I would say, yeah, I've seen a guy go from a 2 to a 7? That was AI generated.
Oh, wait, you were on that guy's podcast.
Yeah, and I talked about how those things, people use them, but then it was illegally used, and we've sent cease and desist, and there's a whole legal thing, so I shouldn't get into it too much. Okay. But AG, I advertise. Matina, I advertise. Like Element, advertise. The stuff I talk about on the podcast. Okay, so the other stuff out there, Yeah.
You didn't stamp that stuff. You
what's
didn't,
that?
you didn't stamp any of that other stuff.
No, there's like 40 ads out right now with using my name and face and likeness.
How do you-
We sue them. We sue them, or we send cease and desist. But it takes time. They run off to countries that we can't track them. And
Does that affect you
Nah.
more? You don't care.
I mean, I don't
because
like
there's
it, but,
other
you know.
people that are believing this.
well, I don't like that. But people be like, "Hey, just bought this amazing hydrogen water bottle," and I'm like, "Thank you, Huberman." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't back that." You know, yeah, it's rough. But there
Wait,
are
so you don't back those?
No.
Okay, that's it.
No.
I almost had a question about that.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna leave that alone.
No, the jaw exercisers, some people like them, but that I'm not affiliated with them at all.
You're not going to go from a 2 to a 7?
If I could go to a 2 to a 3, I'll be happy.
You're way past that. Okay. So, the pseudoscience supplement shill.
Right.
People hear that. Okay. Well, then don't buy this. You don't need to buy anything. And the information is mostly focused on very high quality science and health information. Our guests are like the best of the best in the landscape of health and science. Now, there are debates. Like there's a big debate about sugar between Robert Lustig, who's a pediatric endocrinologist at the University of California, San Francisco. He's an MD, and some other folks. They differ on opinion, but these are highly trained individuals, okay? And he's not selling anything. He's just saying that. Now, do I agree with everything Robert said? No. Do I agree with some of it? Yes. Likewise with Lane Norton. Some yes, some no. Okay. So the guests that we bring on, I would say, are of the absolute highest quality. Show me another venue where you have Howard Hughes medical investigators, so the Carl Deisroths, neuroengineers. You have the guy who's doing neurosurgery at Neuralink. You got so these people are, Mark Esposito for working memory and aging and how it impacts memory and dementia. Like these are your like extremely talented scientists. Okay. Then the solo episodes, I do my best to cover the information as well as I can. Talk about oral health. By the way, brush and floss, everybody, twice a day. Super key for your, especially at night. Just floss once a day then if you don't want to. Heart health, brain health, it's important.
Okay.
Don't use alcohol-based mouthwashes. Destroy the gut microbiome, oral
Listerine?
microbiome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, don't use it. Don't use it.
Okay,
Don't use it.
okay,
Don't
okay.
use it. You're better
What
off
would you
just
use?
nothing.
Oh.
Yeah, brush and floss.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the solo episodes, I do my best. And sometimes where people critique them, like someone critiqued my cannabis episode. So we brought on a guest and then he offered some new information. So, it's a curriculum that people can pick and choose from.
Right.
Now, when people get, pointed about like, I hate that you talk about your bulldog so much. I mean, can I just be direct? I don't fucking care. I don't care. Like I like
That's my dog.
Right. It means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. Like it really doesn't. Like if it bothered me, I'd say like, oh, that hurts. Or no, it doesn't bother me. If people are like, you don't blink enough, I'll be like, whatever. Or so I have a pretty thick skin when it comes to that stuff. When people start, misunderstanding what it's all about, like it's just to sell supplements or something like that, that is frustrating. But that's a choice, right? That's a choice. That's a choice that people have made to see things in a particular light and to focus on the thing that bothers them, which, you don't have to do a lot of therapy or self-reflection to realize like that's about them. And if I've learned anything from the field of psychology is that most destructive forces in the world are related to envy. I'm not saying those people want to be me. I'm not saying that. But you could broadly describe winners versus losers in life as the following. People who are quote unquote winners take their internal states, positive or negative, and try and transmute them into good, into generative things to better take care of themselves and others. Pretty much. Or they do nothing. They pause and just kind of sit with the feelings. People who are quote unquote losers tend to take negative feelings inside them and create destruction in the world, either unto themselves or to other people around them. Now, I'm not saying that people that attack themselves are losers. I'm saying that we all experience anxiety, frustration, anger, like things that we see, things that we experience. But part of being a really good human being, both to yourself and to other people, is about transmuting. I'm using kind of new agey language, but transmuting that energy into, okay, I'm really upset, so I'm going to do nothing. I'm just sit with this. Just realize like how upsetting this thing is. Write about it. Let it, and then I'm going to take whatever energy is there and I'm going to put it into something positive. I'm going to put it into something that's generative. That's the essence of becoming a functional adult. And we don't always do it all the time, and we do it better when we're rested. But that's essentially who we want to be. And so when I see people in comment sections attacking, I'm like, oh goodness, like they are using what's like a vacuative expression that like they're feeling envy towards this other person. And they're so upset. Like I did an episode on relieving back pain. And then we had a guest on that talks about these exercises that you can do. And the physical therapy community is replete with people arguing about things. And we also did an episode on pain with Sean Mackey, who's a director of pain medicine at Stanford University School of Medicine. So he's a luminary in the field of pain. He talks about the biopsychosocial model. You need to, sometimes when you're in pain, simply lowering your stress or reframing it cognitively can dramatically reduce the pain. There's also a case in some instances for pain meds. He talked about all of that. We've covered it all. But we put out this episode about back pain and strengthening your back and pain-proofing your back. And goodness gracious, people were so upset. And they were like, you're way out of line talking about this stuff. You have no place. You're building up this guy as being important when the field. And at first I thought, whoa, like, did I screw up? I went and talked to a bunch of PTs and they're like, listen, there's this thing in the community where like people are really divided. And you go, okay.
But don't they realize it? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, it's a free resource. You don't like it? How about this? I'll invite in one of the people that challenges this person on a separate episode. And so what I started to realize is that 99.9% of the time when people are coming at you in comments, it's really about their own issues. And so what I like to do is take it in. I really like the information. I have this notebook.
Yeah.
Where I like write things down that I learned. Look, winners versus losers. I write down, like I have this whole thing on empathy that I'm trying to understand where and when it's appropriate, when and where it's destructive. I like write this stuff down. I think about it just as a way to put ideas down. So I'll see negative comments and I'll write them down and I think, is there truth here? What's that truth based on? I'm really pretty analytic about it. Most of the time I come away thinking, okay, maybe I need to sharpen up the delivery of the information. But there's other ways in which I think, maybe the fact that 95% of the feedback is positive.
Right.
Thank you for the free information, or this really helped me, et cetera. Maybe I need to internalize a bit more of that information and balance it. And then look, there's basically a major challenge in life, which is when we get criticized, we have to decide whether or not to stand our ground or say this.
Right.
And there's no rule book for that. And so what I've decided to do is take in all the information. I do read all the comments. And as long as people aren't attacking other people in the comment section, I largely let it ride. There are people who also claim that they are scientists or something. And I go like, where did they do their training? Did they publish anything? I mean, I will say this, humility aside, people will say, oh, well, he doesn't have a lab now, whatever. The fact of the matter is I got tenure at a very competitive university. And I ran a laboratory, worked on animal models and clinical trials in humans. And we published in really, really competitive journals. Science, Nature, Neuron, Cell. On a consistent basis over many years. So it's a little bit like me coming along and being like, oh, like the way you catch your kickflip sucks. It's like, you don't really know what you're doing. Like it's a moron stance, frankly, for me to do that. So these people oftentimes aren't qualified to grade a fifth grader's paper or let alone, my paper.
Right.
Now, I make mistakes. I did this math gaffe where I added probabilities, and I've published a lot on cumulative probability versus independent probability. You can flip a coin a bunch of times. It's not going to change the probability of the next coin flip, right? They cut that clip at a point where they cut out the joke I made immediately afterwards, and it was embarrassing. I used it as a teaching moment to say, look, I make mistakes. Here's what I should have said. Here's the thing. So
you also do retractions on your website, though, right?
Yeah, we do corrections.
Yeah, corrections.
We do corrections.
Yeah.
We can now use AI to replace audio content. So these kinds of things. I've made some errors in terms of microns versus millimeter segments. So there's stuff there. I think all of this, rather than get nuanced about the things that I've done and why, here's the thing. The internet has a bit of a borderline personality. Borderline is not psychotic. Psychotic is psychotic, delusional. Borderline is actually, by definition, people that weave back and forth between I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. When we step back from the internet, like anytime I go into social media, you're going to get love and you're going to get hate. And the hate is always going to be high visibility to you because that's how we're wired as humans. So I honestly don't worry about it anymore. But I am paying attention to the specific critique so that I can do better.
Right.
And I do listen to my own podcasts again and try and improve, try and not be as repetitive or long-winded. I listen to other podcasts. I'm foraging for the best content, best guests, etc. That skateboarder punk rock kid in me is like, if you don't like it, then like, I can't help you, but I can suggest something. Go elsewhere.
Right.
Right. Like I don't have anything. I don't have a need to please everybody. And I think that, I know that what I'm trying to do, and I know that it accomplishes my goals for some people and not for others. And so I think that I'm also not the kind of person, or maybe it was Rogan that said this. I don't understand going, by the way, it's warm in here.
You're going to take your shirt off? Whoa, Huberman, man.
Take it off.
G-rated show. God dang.
It's warm in here. It's hot in here. Man. It's not the topic, man.
Raj, fill up the bathtub with ice water.
It's also, think about what it takes to be the kind of person who goes on their phone and says mean things about somebody. I mean, me, like, sure. In fact, if you feel like saying something mean, say it to me, because I think like I'm in a pretty good position to take it. But to go on somebody's thing and to say something mean, like, just think about the psychology of that person.
That's crazy.
Just think about that. And some people say, well, they're willing to do it there, but they won't do it in person. That's actually true. The guy who kind of came at me hard on X about my cannabis episode, he was like, that's not true and that's not true. And I said, come on the podcast.
I saw that
interaction.
And I was truly in the belief that he would never come on your podcast.
Oh, well, at first he was like, how can I be sure that you're not going to trick me into, and I said, listen, we'll fly you out this, that. He eventually came out and sat down. We did a 4-hour podcast.
What'd you think at the end of that?
Well, in person, he was very docile.
Right. Online, he was a little hostile.
Oh, it was swearing out the gate. And I thought, well, this is odd because in the academic community, the etiquette is not to do that. It turned out that we disagreed about some specifics about receptor affinity, CBD versus THC. And I kept waiting. And in the end, he had offered, by the way, some very highly educational content. I'm not just saying that, about cannabis for everybody. It's a great episode if you have the time to listen to it. The main thing, however, was that there was no battle, there was no debate, there were no fireworks, and I kept waiting. I was like, oh boy, here we go. And I had my references ready, and I explained why I'd said what I had said. And in the end, what I realized is people will say all sorts of things online that they won't say in person. Right. So, I sort of make the joke, and, he was great for coming on the podcast. But, like thumb wars are for kids, like show up, let's talk science, let's get into it. I'm trained as a scientist, like let's grapple with the ideas. And it was highly educational, but it was also educational in the sense that like what people were willing to say online, they weren't willing to sit down and say it into a microphone. Now, when microphones went off, he emphasized that he had some very basic issues with kind of like me being a public educator on topics outside of neuroscience. He was like, hey, this feels outside of your topic area. And I said, well, listen, I have expert guests on. I do solo episodes about it. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, cool. And also, by the way, podcasting right now is a great business to get into. We are in the golden age of podcasting.
Yeah.
It is a great time to start a podcast. If somebody thinks that they can do what I do or what you do, and they're excited about doing it differently and better or whatever, like, come on in. I'll even tell you how to do it.
Right.
So it's just one of those things where it's always easy to be a spectator. If you're in the arena, you're going to take hits. And, I love the Huberman podcast listeners and viewership, and I love the critique too. It's kind of fun, but I've had to learn this whole thing. The public facing thing is not something I had any experience with, and it's a whole new world.
Well, you reach a certain point. I mean, we experienced it here with the 9 Club. It was like in the very beginning, you have those people that latch on and you're like, they're like your true family and community, and there's not a bad comment in the thing. And then you reach a little bit more audience and a little bit more. And then you kind of hit this threshold where you're like, boom, we've crossed the line, and now we get weirdos coming in and talking weird shit. And Chris he's on crack, and what you get, you know what I mean?
They say that?
I don't think
it's
they
been
say that.
well, whatever. It's been
And some people are probably having fun. Some people are.
100%.
Some of them are probably inebriated.
Right,
Some of them are probably legitimately not well. Right. I mean, if you just look at the statistics of mental health, right? Some of them are probably suffering. But you think about what it takes for somebody to go and put a mean comment.
Well, I was just about to say.
somebody. You go, gosh, their life can't be good.
I was just about to say,
Their
though,
life can't be good. And they might be chuckling right now and saying, oh, no, it's good. And you just don't like it. No, it's like, it can't be good. Because if you're a generative person, you're out there trying to get better at skateboarding or art or music or spending time with people or, or creating wealth for yourself or whatever it is, learning science, whatever it is. I just don't understand saying mean things to people.
Andrew, you know what I do when I come across something I don't like? I change the channel.
Right.
It's easy. I've never left a disparaging comment in my... I don't see the point. Right. It's bizarre.
Well, unless it's a pre-fight kind of arrangement, like professional boxing or UFC, in general, I would say 99% of the time, highly successful people are just focused on their craft. Yeah. They're focused on their people. They're focused on trying to do the best job they can and not a whole lot else. And I think this is where we get back to this notion of envy. I think a lot of people feel disenfranchised. A lot of people are looking for that social connection or a place to belong. And then they see things that irritate them. And that becomes this kind of gravitational pull where they feel like they take that frustration and they have to put it someplace, that need for evacuative expression. And as humans, we also want to see what we feel inside have an impact out there. And there are positive ways to do that, as I described, like winners do that. They create stuff. They draw, they paint, they create stuff. And people who don't attack themselves or attack other people. And I think learning how to deal with energy, I know it sounds very woo, but that like internal energy of frustration or whatever it is so key. It's like right now heading to this election. It's like wild. But there are people who are out there canvassing and, like great, like that's the political process. And then there are people out there trying to be destructive forces. Right. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That's a terrible thing. Destructive forces out of envy, are what really have driven the worst things in human history. So I think some people are just having fun in there. Most people, I think, are just trying to live their lives. And, I think skateboarders have always been really critical of one another, but there's a nature of criticism in skateboarding, which is really about getting people to do things better, cleaner, better style. They're also really vocal when they love something. When you see something that's amazing, like people are really like encouraging of that as well. Right. So I don't know. It's been a big education for me. I've also had the great benefit of people like Rogan being very helpful, Lex being very helpful, Rick being very helpful, Tim being very helpful. And again, my close circle, people just encourage you to just keep being you. We were talking about this earlier before Mike's went on. And like the best way to get really good and frankly get recognition from things is to just be you. And for some people who are kind of like not nice people, like maybe that's that, but just to be oneself. And I love learning. I love organizing that information. I love sharing that information, especially when I believe that information can be useful to people.
Right. So
I'm just going to keep doing that.
I love it.
Same.
And there's no changing that. No, there's no number of comments or from anyone that's going to change that. So you kind of stuck with me, folks.
I love being stuck with you, and I love the fact that you're of our same ilk, the skateboarder. I love it.
My first non-biological family.
Yeah,
took me in. Jim and LeVar and Carl and Kelch didn't hurt me, and the and it was just amazing. Yeah, it's. I think about it all the time because it was the human universals were right in there. You had all the different personality types and I have a very good memory. I will say this. I remember Shelby. Remember Shelby?
Shelby Woods, yeah.
I rolled up one day with this package of cookies and like shared and like I just remember, and then he got into taking photos and I pay attention and I remember things and there were all the different personalities and people would roll through, and the skateboarding community and like the bedrock of it is people just being themselves, individual differences being brought in, giving each other some healthy, ribbing when appropriate, but also celebrating like when there's incredible progression there. And nowadays I also see a lot more of the community looking out for itself, like people paying attention, like, hey, people are hurting, or like, hey, like that's not good, or let's kind of like create some healthy guardrails for each other. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. The podcast community definitely has that. any community that's just sitting there, everyone patting each other on the back isn't good either. So people holding each other to a higher standard is really good. And also just the camaraderie of it. And as you said, it's evolved so well. Like all these like girls and women do it now at such a high level. Reese Nelson.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
So good.
So amazing. So I think that, I think skateboarding is really a microcosm of what I now see podcasting to be in a lot of ways. And yeah, I love the community, and, if they can take some of the information about health or longevity or injury repair or mental health and use it, awesome.
I love having you on the show because listen, I'm a creature of habit. I get into my little zones and I stay there. I want to be more healthy. I want to do stuff. Some stuff I take into like the sunlight. I open my drapes. Maybe I'll take it a step further now of going outside when I wake up and not just opening the blinds. And I
mean, you live in Malibu, right?
No, I'm in Marina Del Rey.
Oh, well, you got sunshine right out your
I
window.
know,
Get outside.
but this is my creature of habit that I'm talking about. And having you on the show just opens up, it just reinvigorates me. I think sometimes we just need to be reminded of like how to do stuff and what to do, because we all can fall back into our habits, and sometimes I eat really healthy and I'm like chicken and this and that. And then I go back to my pizzas and my
The occasional slice of
Like,
pizza for a
it's
guy
not
like you.
occasional though.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I can easily fall back.
What do you think that's about? I'm not a therapist.
I don't
but
know.
You want to see if you can get
the
away
level
with
of
it?
comfort, just the comfort aspect of it.
It's the comfortability. It's a accessibility. It's easy. It's I got to stand over my and make the chicken. I got to make the stuff. Like the exercising thing. It can become a big. I'm super into it one week, and then the next week
You're
I'm
still
off
skating?
of it.
You still skating?
Not as much as I wish I was. This show takes a lot out of me. I don't want to go skate before I have a guest on because I'm just going to be drained. I want to go home and relax. So there's a lot of things that like keep me from skating. When I wake up in the morning, I want to just get to work. I want to jump on the computer. I want to like work.
Have you ever thought about just taking one day a week, one morning a week?
Yeah.
And just try this. Like one morning a week, it's like just wordlessness. Like you're just going to get out and skate just for fun. You're not going to think about it. You're just going to have fun. Like just go and just get like back into the feel of it.
That's what I don't want to go film an Instagram clip when I'm skating. I want to go and have fun.
No, just
That's
do
my
it for
whole
you.
thing. Right.
Do it for you. Like Rick would say, like just you being you like that. But that part of yourself, I think, will be easy to access because it's in there. Right?
100%.
Like it's like we know this, like relearning something is far easier than learning something brand new.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Language, sport, music, anything. So if you just said, okay, like one day a week, you're going to take 45 minutes, maybe even leave your phone at home.
Right.
Imagine that. And just get out and like, just go skate a curb. Like just skate around a little flat ground.
I think for me, I love to take walks. Like I do like maybe a 3-mile walk every day. Not every day. Just about.
That's rad.
Yeah. Little things, ride my bike and stuff like that. But it's the morning ritual that really gets me. And if I want to work out in the morning, like I need to like, I don't know. It's just, it's something I struggle with. And I think a lot of people struggle with it. It's like we fall into our routines.
True.
Yeah. One thing I learned from Tim Armstrong is, there are these activities that are kind of peripheral to our main thing. So he's a singer-songwriter, writes every day. He's been tremendously successful, like platinum albums. They did Transplants with Rob Aston, Travis Barker. Like he's at all these projects. But he also paints and draws. And so he'll paint or draw because it's a lower kind of barrier of entry, but it puts his mind in the frame for songwriting and music. Whereas if you do your main thing all the time, kind of maniacally, it can get tough. Joni Mitchell, very different type of music, but amazing musician nonetheless, also was really into painting as something that kind of brought her mind in the direction of singing and songwriting. So she would do that consistently, but she wasn't holding herself to be a great painter. So for me, I like to write things out, draw, journal, that kind of thing. And then reading papers and learning for the podcast is kind of like the bread and butter. But sometimes if I'm finding that it's harder to break over to that, I'll do something kind of peripheral to it, like drawing or writing. Similarly with exercise, maybe taking a walk then becomes a little bit of skipping rope, becomes the regular weekly workout. But I think given your energy levels, if you just got into doing a little bit of resistance training, like with me, the way that I train, which is not long workouts, a couple warm-up sets, 2 or 3 hard sets. 2 or 3 hard sets for each muscle group. You're out of there in 45 minutes. You feel so good.
Really?
And another thing is that we know that exercise actually increases the rewarding properties of food. It makes food taste better. That's a real effect, a big effect of exercise that a lot of people don't recognize. So, yeah, I think we should just have everyone over for a workout, cold plunge and sauna. And, you know, some people can do things on their own, but it often helps to just have people
I
do
am
things
a
with.
need. I could do stuff alone for sure, but when I do have that help, you know, and that guidance, that helps a lot.
Well, I'm
you know?
going to get a place over here on the west side.
Oh yeah.
So that's easier to
You
commute
want
to the
should
studio.
we be roommates? Are you going to be?
That'd be-
No, I mean, listen, you're gone a lot, so you'd be like the perfect roommate.
Yeah. We could talk about it. I don't know what it's like to live with Chris.
And I'm
but
sure it's mellow, dude. You like
a mellow
cats.
guy. He's a
You'll
mellow
get to
guy.
learn to like.
I don't.
cats,
I like
okay?
all animals. I'm not a huge fan of reptiles as pets. I like all animals.
I got a boa constrictor too. No.
What's your cat's name?
Larry.
Larry.
Yeah.
What kind of cat?
She's just a little calico. I don't know, just a regular cat.
Cats are
you know,
cool.
Out
Do you
there
have
the
pets?
best.
I used to have a dog,
Oh, what kind of dog?
Australian Shepherd.
Oh, they're smart.
The best dogs,
They're smart.
for sure.
They're really smart.
Yeah, a wonderful dog. Passed away like 6-7 years ago.
Oh, that's rough. You gonna get another one?
The plan was, but as of now that we have a little one on the way, no.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait for a little while. Like, there's only so much.
You get a
we can
dog right
take
now
on,
would be crazy.
You know, so maybe in a year from now,
I
maybe,
gotta-
give or take. We'll
Are you
see.
still skating?
I am, but not as much. Like Chris was saying, I need to. I need to skate more just because I still feel it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
in
it's-
that, in
Well,
that passion still. you
Also,
know?
doing this show is like the best. It's almost like therapy for me
sure.
because I almost feel like doing the show and talking about skating so much and talking with skateboarders and everything. I feel like I'm out there skateboarding. You know what I mean? It actually gives me something that fulfills me in the skateboarding.
I can
you
agree
know?
When
with
I-
you on that.
Yeah.
After my hip surgery and it's hard for me to skate. It kind of like the physical aspect of it kind of went out, but the mental and social aspect of it filled that in. And I think that's what you kind of mean by that.
Well,
To an extent, where
I mean, if I didn't do the show and I was just, but I would probably have wrapped it up and like moved on to something else.
No, you
know
guys
what I
are
mean? Like,
are
but-
central to the community. I mean, there's so much learning comes out of this podcast. People feel part of something. I think one of the reasons people like podcasts, like Nine Club, is that social connection. They feel part of something. So I think, you know, your commenters, your community, like the hecklers, like all that, that's awesome.
It's a part of it also.
It's all part
It's
of
a
it.
part of it.
It's all part of it. You know, I think it's definitely all part of it. It's important. I mean, what you guys have done is really key.
You need that hater energy sometimes. You know
Oh,
what
yeah.
I mean? It helps you
Yeah.
like, in the
Yeah.
big scheme of things.
Also, I'll take constructive criticism all day long. I want to get better. You know, I want to make this podcast the best podcast that it is possible. And if people have suggestions or whatever, but just saying like, oh, this guy sucks. That doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, that's
like,
not
I can't-
constructive.
Right.
But also you have to be you. Like, I think that if you start
totally.
taking criticism in a way that changes what you're doing or what you're about, like the reason this podcast works is because you're you, and he's him.
I would never change that for sure. Right. But changing how, like you said in the beginning, like I want to be able to interview people better. I want to get the most out of that person. You know what I mean? Like I really want to feel like we've done our job when that person leaves after a couple hours of and that listener really gets to know that person. You know, it has all their questions answered.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that is being really present.
Yeah.
You know, but like the ability to.
I'm sorry. What were you saying? No, I'm just kidding.
I like the evening format. It's nice in the evening.
I would
So
like
kind of-
mornings, but yeah, evenings is okay.
Yeah, evenings. These bright lights, you know, disrupt our
Yeah,
sleep,
I
quash our
know.
melatonin secretion. That's
God
okay.
damn it,
That's
Andrew.
all
And
right.
to keep up that control over it.
You always think it's all about being optimized on every front, but I want to make sure I ask a couple questions.
Please.
So, of the kids coming up, street skateboarders, who's blowing your mind?
Dylan Jabe.
Dylan.
Dylan Jabe is kind of like. I mean, I'm just first that comes to my mind. What about you?
Give me an
guys?
example. What's he doing? What's he done?
He flipped Wallenberg. Which
Oh
is,
yeah, I saw that.
yeah. That's pretty heavy.
I confess I saw that clip early It was sent to me
By Jim.
by Jim. And there was an oath of silence on that one where I wasn't allowed to share it, but I was like, oh, goodness. That thing is so big.
Yeah, it's huge.
Wild.
Yeah.
It made it clean.
Oh,
Super
yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
He's just one people have been watching for a while through social media, and they're always like, "Oh, he's just a skate park skater," and I'm like, "This kid's gonna grow up to be something incredible, dude." It's like, and then he's doing his thing now in the streets.
It is funny to watch kids from a little kid
Was he
in
started?
their
he
front
started out-
yard.
okay.
Yeah, just in Hawaii, I think.
Yeah.
He was growing up in
Little
Hawaii,
kid.
little kid, and then it's funny.
Well, that's
now
like the
to
Sheckler
watch
thing,
these
right?
people.
They you just watch them
They
evolve.
evolve.
Yeah, the evolution. Yeah.
I mean, Ryan's still at it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Picking up new shoe sponsors and all. It's pretty amazing, man. What is he? That municipal?
Yeah,
I don't know if
if he's
that's
on.
a
Yeah, I
Mark
don't think
Wahlberg?
it's-
That's not
I think
a
it's
shoe
Mark
thing.
Wahlberg's company.
Yeah, I think it's
He's not-
clothing.
he's
He's
not-
wearing New Balances.
Yeah,
so I
last
don't
time I
think-
saw him, he was
Oh,
wearing
wow.
New Balance.
He's not on
either
New
way,
Balance, yeah.
Well, he's got some sort of connection with them. So
He's got
things
a
are
kid.
still.
He's got a
He
kid.
just. I think he's about to have a second one if he hasn't had it already.
Good for
But yeah.
him.
I think I don't know. There's a lot of kids. I think every kid's good now. I think the standouts like Andy Anderson. We were just talking about him before the show. His new video part that just dropped, and he thinks about skating a different way. You know, he's not I'm going to just go straight. He's going to make a left and a right and an up and a down and go this way and that way, and you don't know what he's going to do. You know, and I think that's exciting. Like, I think skateboarding can be very linear sometimes, you know, and I think he's not on that path. And I don't know, it's just funny. It's just fun to watch, like somebody that's not doing the normal.
Everyone skateboarding, we've all grown up being like, it should be this way. It should be only that way. You can't wear a helmet. You can't do freaking, I don't know, dark slides. I don't know what you want to say. You know what I mean? But he's proven to do what he wants and make it look good and fun.
This kid.
This is him.
Yeah.
This is his new video part that just came
Some
out.
Nodus
He
thing
did
right
a
here.
Nodus spin, which he calls it the Satan spin because it's upside down. So it's backwards. Right?
That's pretty funny.
No, he's super. He's super methodical.
Does he live down
thinks
here?
of- yes, he. Born in Vancouver,
Okay.
moved down here. He loves it. Venice.
And people have really embraced him in this like in Venice too. Like
Yeah.
they really love having him around. And this line right here is completely insane.
The watermelon wedge. Okay.
And I think at the end of the day,
He's so rad, bro.
we were speaking about being authentic and being yourself. Like he's the epitome of that.
What's with these late flip under flips? Oh boy.
He's
so
a
He's a freestyler.
He's a free. He embraces every aspect of skateboarding. Freestyle, street.
Most versatile dude.
He's the most
Huge
He is
handrails.
ATV
Huge
dude for
handrails.
days.
And then he's everyone skates the top ledge. He skated the middle ledge. Like it's like so weird to hit it like that. It's so awkward.
He definitely thinks outside the box, and I think that's
Well, it's like
super
that.
refreshing.
It's like that Rodney Gons thing, like of just looking at stuff.
Look at this
different.
one. Watch this one.
Yeah, I saw a clip of this.
This
This
is
is
he does the
nuts.
Nodus to Jamie Foy. That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
He did the Nodus spin to Jamie Foy front crook.
And people gave him shit for having rails on his board.
No, I think
No?
it's just no. It was a helmet and stuff like that, and I think it was just
Rails.
Listen, he's just different.
I feel like rails are cool
But
now.
look at that.
in a
Like,
weird
he's
way.
still doing gnarly things that are, you know.
Yeah, no, he is gnarly, and it seems like he's having fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
You would hope.
Which he actually worked very hard on this video part in a year and a half, I believe he said.
Whoa.
That was insane.
The rock, late whatever.
But then like
Late pressure off a rock. All right.
You could see him like he does like a proper tray flip. It's not like he has
Well, that seems to be, if I may,
Go ahead.
it seems to be part of his power is that he can do all the other stuff, but he's peppering in really hard other stuff amid stuff that's like completely new and different that you're not really sure how to think about. There he goes, like backlipping, like it was like, and that thing's tight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Channel.
Yeah. Is that Pedro?
yeah.
Yeah. So, I've been there and it's small and tight. Whoa.
He's good on everything.
He
That's
really
what
is,
what
man.
we're saying is like he's just watch this. How are you going to look at this thing and be like, I'm going to do that? Whoop. Hey, hello.
so
know what I'm
nuts.
saying? Like-
That's so, you get so
Tony Hawk
fucked
has
up,
never
man.
seen anybody skate his ramp like this.
Okay, I've been to this ramp. This thing is big.
Watch this line.
No.
Look at this. Oh, I'm going to tap that. Let me early grab into this thing. Back five.
Is he no knee pads? Wait, he's got a helmet but no knee pads?
He don't need
Well,
it.
he's always got the helmet.
Yeah.
What do you mean no knee pads? I mean, it's like he's got
No, yeah,
on
no knee
vert?
pads.
on vert.
Look at
Look,
this,
look at him.
dude.
Manual.
Whoa. What?
We're not done yet. We're not done. So good.
He is so good. Okay,
I just think it's fun to- he's
don't
fun-
stop it, but I get it now.
He's fun to watch,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's exciting to watch. It's different.
It's
Did he
different.
Just backlipped to like front
Foot
impossible.
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's doing these things?
I love that you're watching his part for the first time here.
It's a sick
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kids that are up and coming. To go back to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that's
Andy's
just-
been in the game for a while. I wouldn't necessarily say up and coming,
No,
but
no.
he's definitely solidified. But
I think he's winning
He's just-
people over.
He definitely is.
Yeah, like a lot of people weren't. They were like, "Who is this dude?" And I'm like, "Watch, you'll see this dude." He's doing his thing.
he just was himself. Coconut wheelie.
So that's called.
Yeah.
Too good, man.
But yeah, there's a. I'm a team manager, so I'm always looking for like the younger kids and what they're doing. But he's there's no one really doing anything like him.
No.
I'm always looking in podcasting to see who's doing things that are different because,
Right.
again, parallels to skateboarding, it's early days. Like Chris Williams has the Modern Wisdom podcast. He went with really cool production, beautiful scenery. Like that's his thing. Lex is like all black and his thing, us, our thing, the nerd thing, Rogan, his thing, you guys, your thing.
Right.
Podcasting, there's so much space for people to bring in different style.
What did they say?
For
There was
sure.
some like 5 million podcasts a month or something. Like
There are a
that?
lot of podcasts,
Yeah, a
but
lot,
but podcasts are growing in terms of their impact. You get as evidenced by the fact that more advertisers are moving in, more people are listening to podcasts all the time.
How funny is that we went from listening to radio shows in the 30s and 40s, whatever, and then television, and now we're back to like listening to shows.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna
And people say that long form content, people's attention span is gone.
No, so it's interesting. I watched a documentary on the history of game shows. It's very interesting. The first commercial took place during the World Series when DiMaggio was making a run on the home run record. That first commercial was an interesting segue to what eventually became game shows. Game shows were really just commercials disguised by human interaction. The game was a way to show products. It was a commercial.
Right.
And then the human interactions turned out to be the most interesting to people. The Price is Right. It was about who would say what. The host used to kiss the contestants.
Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Small, skinny
but it was a commercial.
Yeah.
People would place their products there. I'm also watching this guy just murder this like multi-kink rail. Okay.
But yeah, the price is right.
So,
Yeah.
gulp.
But you notice what he put on the rail to make him go slow in that first portion?
Yeah,
No.
he put these yoga mats.
He put
on
yoga
there.
mat on top of the rail to make him go slow, to make it around the
Yoga mat.
corners. Yeah.
You have to.
Who would have thought?
You have to go watch.
But he studied that. He tried
Many
trials and
things.
tribulations of a substance that would work.
On your drive home, turn on Andy Anderson 9 Club.
Okay.
It's a good listen.
And
He's
then-
a good dude.
And then he does this, a full freestyle run.
He said this was the hardest thing he did in his part.
Yeah, it's some Rodney Mullen levels of board control. So,
Too good.
you know, game shows eventually became reality TV, where it wasn't so much about the product placement, it was about the human interactions. So you had reality TV. And then now we are in the landscape of social media, where it's basically a reality TV show that everyone can cast themselves in. Some people have bigger roles by virtue of likes and followership, me, and other people have more minor roles. Comments are a place where people can be a player, an actor in the reality TV show that is social media. This is the evolution, the way I see it. And podcasts are largely born out of and kind of linked to social media. So it's unclear where it's all going to go, but it's interesting to think about kind of the evolution of television, sitcoms, game shows, and we know based on advertising, we know based on the fact that that was a rad part. Awesome.
It's not done yet. You got to watch the whole thing.
I will.
That's a little teaser for you.
But just by virtue of the way that more podcasts are coming out all the time, more people are listening to podcasts all the time, that it's just going to grow as a venue.
100%.
And that's because people they have a little TV in their pocket.
I
right?
think, yeah. And I think we're very fortunate to be able to have these long form conversations too. in
Well,
person and like really talk. And
Yeah.
nobody's pulled their phone out.
No, and I feel very grateful that you guys have had me back on here, despite the fact that I haven't shown that video part yet. So we'll do it. I'll put it out there.
A lot of people want to see the Andrew Huberman kickflip.
Yeah, either I know a little bit about skateboarding by virtue of just having observed it, or I did. No, I'll put something out there.
You said you have a mini ramp in your front yard, right?
Backyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
skate.
people would be so happy just to see you cruising around, little 50-50, little fakey rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It will happen. Ian was over from Janko
Yeah.
this morning, so he took a couple runs.
Okay.
Well, when we come by, we'll definitely have a little session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay, we'll do it. Yeah. Does your kid skate? How old's your?
He does. He's on and off. It's hard, so he gets discouraged a little bit. But he had a really good moment at skate camp this last week, which I was really stoked. He did his first half cap turnaround, but like did it really confident and
Like
really
riding backwards and then
riding and turn around. I mean, obviously, it's not that hard.
Hey,
but it was a
It's a
really
start,
monumental
dude.
moment for him, and
Yeah.
everybody was there. They cheered for him, and he felt that. When you land something and you feel like all your comrades behind cheering you on, like he felt that. So it was really cool to see like where he goes from here, and to see if that's going to be carried down the road.
Right.
You got that
And
first
hopefully
first dopamine rush right there.
Yeah, he did. I got it from even seeing him, bro. I was like, proud dad moment. You know what I mean?
love it.
Yeah,
I
that
love
was
it.
rad.
I love it.
Listen, Andrew, can we give you some 9 Club stuff to take home? We got water bottles. We got Yeti stuff. Can we give you a little get care package?
Would love that.
Okay, Kelly,
Yeah.
we do the honors.
What size
bro.
t-shirt? Are you extra small or?
I'm a large.
Okay.
In most, sometimes an XL, sometimes a large. Depends.
Okay, I'll grab it.
Yeah.
One last question though
Sure.
from our audience. GG162 asks just one question for Andrew. What sort of mind tricks can be done to get Heath Kirchart on the 9 Club?
Give me his phone number. I'll hit him up.
Done.
I'm a pretty persuasive guy.
Okay.
I've been in touch with Jim Thiebaud about coming on the 9 Club.
Oh God, I mean,
I actually was going to pull this trick on Jim where I called him up during 9 Club and he was on, so that I'm like, you're on the 9 Club.
That's the only way we'll get Jim on.
We could try right now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Jim, he would kick my ass.
What
know
do you
that?
mean? You're not on. It's your
I know, but
voice.
he's a funny. I love Jim.
See if we can do this. Ready? It's 9
Does he
o'clock.
know you're going to be here right now?
He might.
Okay.
Let's see.
What time is it? 9 p.m.
Oh, he'll pick up for Andrew.
Might be in the. Oh shit! Thank you, Kelly, bro. Appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right.
We've been trying to get Jim. Jim's such a humble dude, though.
Yeah,
You know what I
dude.
mean? Like
He doesn't like to talk about
He's
himself.
selfless.
Yes.
All right,
He has
ready?
no self.
Here we
No, I'm
go.
just kidding.
He's gonna kill me.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He's either going to kick your ass or my ass, and I think he'd probably choose my ass.
He's not kicking.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not kicking his
He'd
ass.
probably choose mine. Go ahead. Oh yeah, put it up to the speaker.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey Jim, you're on the 9 Club.
No, I'm not. Hang up on me right now, motherfucker.
That was so rad. That was so good. That was priceless, bro.
Watch.
Hey, he told him to hang up.
He's going to call me right now and be like, "You, this fucking guy."
That was too good, dude.
Thanks for that, Andrew. We could say that we had Jim Tebow on the show. Appreciate that.
Little bit.
We
need the
technically
full-
had him on once. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. He was on our Halloween episode.
Yeah.
True.
But first of all,
Oh, leave him hanging.
thank you so much.
I think I just lost
for
Jim
coming
Tebow
by.
as a friend.
He's blocked you.
Yeah, he probably blocked me. I wouldn't doubt it. No,
We might have to cut that.
Much, but he's good.
He was totally joking.
Okay,
He
have
was not serious right there.
no. We have some 9 Club stuff.
Okay.
This is our slogan, wipe your mouth. This is for the comments, the haters out there. They say a little something offhanded to you, say just wipe your mouth. But here's a tissue. You know what I'm saying? There's that, Andrew.
It's for everybody out
Thank
there.
you.
Hats. I don't know if you're a hat guy. Maybe
yeah,
if
I'm a
it's
hat
too.
guy.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me see
9
if
Club.
it fits right.
Okay.
It depends if it fits.
You got a
right.
big noggin or what? Actually, dude.
Ooh.
Right, it fit right.
You just transformed into a whole new dude right
Got a
there.
hat model.
Bro.
Let's get the photos after this.
Oh my god. Okay. Oh, socks. Everybody wears socks. Don't be. It's okay, Andrew. He doesn't care, dude. It's Jim Tebow. There you go. Stance socks.
I heard the new thing is socks pulled up. like the ankle socks thing is considered like very like old guy.
Those are perfect.
I run.
I'm running right now, dude. I don't
day.
care. DGAF, dude.
I know you go on a lot of little hikes and you
This
do a
is
lot of
fancy.
outdoor training and stuff
Wow.
like that. So we got the Skull Candy Crusher ANC's 2s. He's got bass and everything. They cord or Bluetooth for you right there.
Amazing.
Those are headphones. Look at that. Oh.
I've never used
And
these.
huh?
I've never used these, but
They're good. They're
looking forward
good.
to
They're
it.
really
Okay.
good. And of course, the 9 Club T-shirt for you. If you do get on the cover of Thrasher, it's $20 photo incentive. All right. Never say never.
What it says 9 Club?
Yeah. It's gonna open it
Yeah,
up. I love that you open it.
I don't think
up
I'll be.
like
I don't think I'll be on the cover of Thrasher anytime in this.
Well, if you
lifetime.
do, $20. It's our photo incentive deal over here. Look
Or
at that.
what if you were on his podcast?
Oh,
I dig it.
you wear that on your podcast?
This is the first time I've done a podcast in short sleeves.
Exclusives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're getting more comfortable, huh?
Well, with you guys, it all feels very cozy.
There we go.
Dude, we appreciate you, dude. And
I
thank
appreciate you
Dude,
guys. Listen, I love skateboarding. I love the community. I love 9 Club. It's been awesome. I think it's third time on
Third
now.
time?
And yeah, you guys are very brave in bringing on a nerd scientist.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about? Everybody
we're so stoked to have you on,
loves-
man.
Dude,
Yeah,
It's so
It's been
fun.
a ton of
been
fun.
a great,
I
great
And also in the field of podcasting, I consider you guys colleagues. It's like you got Joe and Lex and us, the comedy podcast, and Tim Ferriss and Whitney Cummings and her amazing podcast. I mean, there's all these podcasts, but as you mentioned, 4 million plus podcasts. But there aren't a lot of us that got in early and started and kept going and are really like specific genre oriented.
Yeah.
And I love that you're doing it. And
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are the flagship skateboarding podcast.
Man, all we're doing is having fun. And we're just being ourselves.
Just
like
being
said.
you.
Yeah.
Like Rick just said, just you being you is
That's
the
it.
only way to go. And I think for anyone listening has that creative streak, if it's like writing or skateboarding or music or podcasting, like just being you is the way to do it. And people go, well, what does that mean? It means just be you. Don't try and be like this other thing.
I don't know how long you can keep up a front. And people are going to see right through it eventually, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes, people will do things like other people do it because that's them being them.
Right.
And typically that only goes so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this whole podcasting thing's a fun ride.
It's fun, man. And you're killing it. You're out there
Yeah,
just,
bro.
Yeah.
I'm trying. We're doing.
You're-
I'm trying.
you're
We're
doing big things. I
We
love
have
it.
a couple things. Can I mention?
please. What do you got?
I have a book coming out.
Nice.
It's available for pre-order. Comes out in April of 25. Called Protocols. A operating manual for the human body. It's like a lookup table. So if you're having like joint pain or anything, you can go and order it. It's gonna be in 29 languages. And
Sick.
so I'm excited about that.
Okay.
And so you can always like look up sleep or jet lag or whatever you want. You can get the protocols and the science behind it too.
Love that.
The podcast is still Huberman Lab, and we're going to have shorter content for the guy that made the comment.
I love how
We're
that's
going to have
it's
30
been eating you up the whole time.
I love that guy. 30-minute episodes
Okay.
with essential components of dopamine or essentials of sleep, like so that if you don't want to listen to the long format, you can just get those essential
Love that.
components. That's
Yeah,
going to be
that's
launched
super
late this year, early next year. Already have those in the works. A bunch of them are banked.
Cool.
And I'm super excited about that.
Is that with a guest or just solo?
both?
Both. Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
both. But it will start with the solos.
Looking forward to
and,
that. Is that going to be available via podcast also? Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be
On
audio
your-
only
okay.
via podcast.
Audio
Yeah.
only.
Yeah, audio only.
Okay.
New channel. There's some things spinning up around that.
Look at you.
And then the other thing is, just having fun.
I love it.
Living life. I'll be 49 in September, and I just want to keep going.
Hey.
Yeah.
You're doing a great
Well,
job, bro.
listen,
Doing a
I got
great job.
I got some
Thanks so
advice
much.
for you. Sunlight. Okay. Sleep. Okay. And eat and nutrition.
Yep.
You'll get there, bro.
I love it. I love it. Come on over. Let's
Andrew,
do the cold plunge. We can,
gotta
if
do
you want,
that.
we can film the mini ramp
Okay.
sauna cold plunge.
do it.
Oh my goodness.
And then, or we can just enjoy ourselves too. And
I'm
just,
down for
like,
both.
Yeah.
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 I'm gonna film
Down
it.
for both. Eat some food,
we're
hang
gonna,
out.
I'm gonna look crazy in that water.
You
bro.
ain't gonna do it.
I think I'll-
Dubs again. You ain't.
I'm gonna do
I
it.
might
You gonna do it?
If we're all going, I'm gonna do it. I'm just not gonna. I could already forecast that I'm gonna be very cold.
You survive these maniacs. You can survive.
look
it.
at
I don't
We're gonna do our
know. Dubs,
best.
I don't even know if I could do it. I take a cold shower and I'm like,
I feel like I'm gonna faint
feel-
or something.
I'm,
Yeah.
Bro, I got in the river, not in the river, waterfall. There was a waterfall in skate camp.
Yeah.
And dude, I just barely got in that. And it was like cold. And they're like, dude, this is not even as cold as a cold plunge. I was like, no, this is going to be rough, dude. But I'm dead. Let's go. Let's
We
do
gotta try it.
We're gonna
do it.
If we're going over
Yeah.
to Huberman's to do a cold plunge, damn, we're gonna do it.
Ian from Jenkum did his first one this morning.
Oh.
He got in there for a good minute.
Wow.
Was like at first, and then just boom, just cruised it through.
Okay.
He did great.
If
He did
I do
great.
10 seconds, is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at a time.
No, what, no.
Gotta get
If
back
I
in
get,
it.
if I get in
in a
there in
row.
10 seconds,
Yeah,
am I going to get a stamp from Huberman saying you
Yeah,
did
you
it?
spend 20 minutes in the sauna at the temperature I keep it. You'll want to get in the cold plunge because I like the heat.
Okay.
Heat.
Oh, so you do heat then cold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many times you do the back and forth?
Ideally 3.
Okay.
20 minutes in the heat, 3 minutes in the cold, back and forth. Or you just get in until you're uncomfortable and you get out. You enjoy getting in the cold. You walk around, like hang out. Like it doesn't have to be this. Like you don't have to push
Intense.
yourself.
Right.
Yeah, just enjoy it. It's like just it's okay to just pump around the car. You pump around the park and you like carve a little bit and hit a few grinds. That's okay too.
Give.
It's okay. It's okay,
We're
Jerron.
I know.
It's
I
okay.
know.
We're
You
gonna have
my
fun.
permission.
Dude, we're going to have fun. We're going to go over to
That's how we-
Huberman's
that's what we
house
wanna
and
do.
we'll bring maybe some snacks. How about that? You
Love
supply the cold plunge, the sauna, and the mini ramp, and we'll bring snacks.
Perfect.
Yeah?
Perfect.
No processed stuff though.
What do you mean? I was
Yeah.
going to bring,
Yeah,
I was
we
going to
gotta
bring
bring,
some ding dongs and some.
We'll get Blayback
Twix.
over there too. He does
Yeah.
the cold plunge. He
Yeah.
does the
Get
sauna.
photos.
Let's get Chris Ray over there too. Let's do the whole.
Chris Ray, Martin Phobes.
Let's
We'll
go.
get everybody.
The whole team.
Ian from Jankum.
Okay.
Yes.
No. We want the exclusive 9 Club. We don't.
Oh,
need
I
it.
see.
We
Are
don't
they
need
your
it.
competitor?
No, we want
No.
you.
No, we don't. No,
I like
they're
that
our
kid.
comp-
I want
He's
him
that
there.
kid.
No.
I love
the
Ian.
best.
He's
I'm
awesome.
totally-
He's the man.
I'm
Another
totally kidding.
example of him just being him. Like you can
he's-
just tell he's like this kid, New Yorker, like talking to people on the street.
I'm
I'm
a
he's
big
just-
fan.
Yeah,
Good.
good.
I love what Jankum has done and what they're doing now. They're incredible.
Straight
There you
up.
go.
That's how we discovered Andrew Huberman through Jankum. Can't thank them enough.
Well, I always feel safe knowing you guys are here because
God
I
bless
do.
you.
Whenever I'm down on the west side, I always think, well, if the apocalypse comes, I'll just run down to the 9 Club. They'll just be chilling
Well,
down
we're
there.
I don't know how
hanging out
much.
here the whole
I don't know
time.
how much
Yeah,
food
yeah.
we got here.
Oh,
A lot of
well,
skateboards.
wait, but we have the.
There's
Oh,
the
it's
book
right there. The
here.
Navy
There it
SEALs
is.
Bug-in
Yeah,
guide.
I've been reading this.
Okay.
Joel Lambert's Navy SEAL Bug-in guide about.
I'm
it's like-
into it.
It's not really about prepping, but it's about being prepared
Right.
for if you need to, have enough energy, electricity, food. This guy knows what he's talking about.
There you go.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I love this book.
Dude, Andrew, thank you so much for coming by. The door is always open. I hope you come by again and again and again. And, dude, it's always a pleasure, dude.
Likewise.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having
Yes,
me.
bro.
Love you guys.
Love you
Love
too.
you
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
All
Andrew Huberman, everybody.
And Jim Thiebaud.
And Jim Thiebaud, who hates your guts at the moment. At the moment, he'll
That's
come
gonna take some repair work.
tomorrow morning.
right.
You wish him a good morning. And it's all back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.